Beneath the layers of time, scattered across forests, mountains, and hidden ruins, lie discoveries that defy the official timeline of human history. From stone structures shaped with impossible precision to artifacts that hint at knowledge far beyond what was thought possible, each find raises questions conventional history cannot answer, leaving traces of ingenuity that feel almost otherworldly. Through these ancient sites and artifacts, you'll uncover devices whose purpose remains a mystery, geoglyphs etched across landscapes that align with the stars, and constructions that challenge our understanding of early engineering. You will explore shadowed corridors, polished stones, and pathways long abandoned, tracing the faint echoes of civilizations that time has nearly erased. Each artifact and site offers a glimpse into a past far richer and far stranger than the records suggest, inviting you to consider the secrets that still survive, quietly waiting to be understood. The Tektite tools of the Ivory Coast. The dense forests and iron-rich laterite soils of southern Côte d'Ivoire do not easily reveal their past, yet beneath their surface lies evidence that unsettles one of archaeology's most carefully guarded assumptions. In this region, stone objects bearing signs of deliberate shaping were found in association with tektites, natural glass fragments created by a massive meteorite impact. The pairing itself was unexpected, but the implications were more troubling, because the tektites belonged to a geological event dated far earlier than the accepted arrival of tool-making humans in West Africa. These discoveries did not overturn the historical timeline outright, but they quietly pressed against its edges. Tektites are formed only under extreme conditions, when a meteorite strikes the Earth with enough force to melt rock and eject it across great distances before it cools and solidifies in mid-air. In West Africa, these tektites are chemically linked to the Basumptwi impact crater in present-day Ghana, which has been radiometrically dated to approximately 1.07 million years ago. From this crater, molten material spread hundreds of kilometres, eventually settling in what is now Côte d'Ivoire. The age of these tektites is not disputed, making them reliable markers of deep geological time rather than uncertain archaeological estimates. What disturbed researchers was that several stone artifacts displaying characteristics of intentional napping were reported from the same sedimentary contexts as these ancient tektites. These stones were not simply fractured rocks, but objects showing conchoidal breaks, defined striking platforms, and edge modifications consistent with purposeful shaping. Such features are widely used to identify prehistoric tools, especially those associated with early hominin industries. When these traits appeared alongside material more than 1 million years old, they created a contradiction that could not be resolved through simple mislabeling. According to the conventional timeline, early stone tools such as those of the Oldowan tradition emerged in East Africa around 2.6 million years ago, while Acheulean hand axes appeared later and spread gradually across parts of the continent. West Africa, however, has long been absent from these earliest chapters, largely because dense vegetation and acidic soils hinder fossil preservation. The apparent presence of work tools in Côte d'Ivoire dating to the early Pleistocene implied either an undocumented early expansion of toolmakers or a misunderstanding of how the artifacts came to rest in those ancient layers. Geological explanations were the first line of scrutiny. Archaeologists considered whether the stones might have been redeposited into older sediments through erosion, flooding, or soil movement, processes that can mix materials from different eras. Burrowing animals and root activity can also disturb stratigraphy over long periods. Yet the lateritic deposits containing the tektites are known for their stability, and the fragile nature of tektites themselves suggested they had not travelled far since deposition. While this did not prove the tools were contemporaneous with the impact event, it weakened arguments for extensive disturbance. Further examination focused on microscopic wear patterns along the edges of the stones. Some artifacts exhibited polish and striations that resembled use wear produced by cutting or scraping organic materials. Such traces are notoriously difficult to interpret, as natural abrasion can occasionally mimic human use, particularly in environments with water or sediment movement. However, the repeated appearance of these features across multiple specimens made it increasingly difficult to attribute all of them to chance geological processes alone. The raw materials used for the tools added another layer of intrigue. The stones were made from locally available rock types, suggesting intentional selection rather than random breakage. Early hominins are known to favour nearby materials for tool production, especially in environments where transport would have been costly. This pattern aligned with recognised prehistoric behaviour, even though the regional and temporal context did not. If these objects were tools, they pointed to organised activity in a place and time where no such activity is currently recognised. Despite these observations, the absence of associated hominin fossils remains a significant obstacle. No skeletal remains dating to this period have been recovered from Côte d'Ivoire, leaving the tools isolated from any physical makers. In archaeology, artefacts without fossils are not unheard of, but when claims push against established timelines, the lack of corroborating evidence becomes more consequential. As a result, many researchers have chosen cautious language, referring to the objects as possible artifacts rather than definitive tools. The debate surrounding the Tektite tools has persisted not because the evidence is dramatic, but because it is stubbornly inconclusive. Each explanation offered seems plausible on its own, yet none fully resolves the contradiction. Geological processes could account for some features, but not all. Human workmanship explains the shapes, but not the context. The objects occupy a narrow space where certainty erodes, leaving only unresolved possibilities. What makes this case particularly unsettling is that it does not rely on sensational claims or fringe interpretations. The Tektites are real, their age is well established, and the stones themselves exist in museum collections and published reports. The discomfort arises from the way these elements intersect, producing questions that the current framework of human evolution does not easily absorb. Rather than rewriting history, the evidence exposes gaps where knowledge should be but is not. As archaeological methods advance and discoveries emerge across Africa, the sites in southern Côte d'Ivoire remain largely quiet, neither confirmed nor dismissed. The stones rest within the broader record as anomalies that resist classification, reminders that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. In a discipline built on fragments, such unresolved traces can linger for generations, waiting for a context that finally makes sense of them. And until that context emerges, the work stones found among West Africa's ancient Tektites continue to suggest that something shaped by intention may have existed there, long before history says it should have. Gobekli Tepe's impossible architecture. On a quiet limestone ridge in southeastern Turkey, the land appears unremarkable, yet its surface conceals structures that challenge everything assumed about early human society. Excavations have revealed enormous circular enclosures, each defined by towering T-shaped pillars carved from the surrounding stone. These pillars are not crude, their surfaces are carefully worked, their edges deliberate, and many are adorned with depictions of animals and abstract symbols. To discover such monumental architecture in a period long before urban centres or agricultural societies existed is to confront a stark contradiction. Complexity and intention appear where none should, and the human story suddenly feels far deeper than previously imagined. Radiocarbon analysis anchors these enclosures firmly to the 10th millennium BCE, a time when permanent settlements and agriculture were thought to be centuries away. This dating has been confirmed through multiple laboratories and excavation layers, consistently placing Gobekli Tepe in the pre-pottery Neolithic, long before ceramic vessels or domesticated crops became common in the region. The chronological evidence leaves little room for debate. The site is precisely what it appears to be, a monumental creation erected by people living without the economic or technological foundations traditionally considered necessary for such feats. Time itself seems to resist this arrangement. Massive T-shaped pillars rise from the earth, each hewn and positioned with an intricacy that no contemporary hunter-gatherer culture was expected to achieve. Some exceed 5 meters in height and weigh multiple tons, carefully arranged in circles and rectangles, suggesting deliberate planning. The uniformity and orientation of the pillars indicate advanced geometric understanding, a sense of spatial order, and coordinated effort that is profoundly at odds with expectations for mobile, foraging groups. These constructions were not incidental or decorative. They were carefully conceived, their presence implying knowledge and skill previously assumed to emerge only after sedentary life had begun. The effort to quarry, sculpt, and erect stones weighing multiple tons speaks to a level of coordination and planning previously unimagined for this period. Without the wheel, draft animals, or metal tools, each pillar would have required hundreds of human labourers, organised in a manner that suggests hierarchy, communication, and sustained collective effort. Excavation trenches reveal channels and work surfaces that imply sophisticated handling methods. While no direct evidence of these construction techniques survives, the result itself, the perfectly balanced upright pillars, attests to an ingenuity that defies conventional assumptions about the capabilities of pre-agricultural societies. Careful examination of the site reveals that the enclosures were not randomly placed, but follow deliberate spatial patterns aligned with topography and celestial cues. Archaeologists have noted that the circular and rectangular enclosures are positioned on slight elevations, often with visibility across multiple terraces, suggesting awareness of sightlines and communal gatherings. Some pillars appear oriented toward rising or setting points of particular stars or constellations, which may indicate early astronomical observation integrated into architectural planning. The placement of pillars within each circle is remarkably consistent, hinting at a shared design principle or ritual protocol guiding their arrangement. This degree of intentional spatial organisation is remarkable for a society that had not yet adopted agriculture, demonstrating that planning, measurement, and coordinated vision were already sophisticated cultural practices. In these alignments, the site hints at knowledge of both the land and sky that exceeds expectations for this period, embedding subtle layers of purpose into the very geography it occupies. Animal reliefs and abstract carvings adorn the pillars, conveying a purpose that seems symbolic, intentional, and entirely divorced from the practical demands of daily survival. Foxes, boars, snakes, and birds appear repeatedly, their forms rendered with clarity and sometimes in motion. Some pillars display abstract shapes and motifs whose meaning remains undeciphered, suggesting a shared symbolic language or ritual knowledge. The carvings do not simply decorate, they mark the enclosures with imagery meant to convey ideas, beliefs, or practices whose logic is now lost. In this, Gobekli Tepe reveals a human capacity for abstraction that predates the written record by millennia. Evidence indicates the architects were hunter-gatherers, yet they invested immense labour in monumental construction without relying on the agricultural base presumed necessary for such projects. Analysis of nearby settlements and faunal remains shows subsistence strategies consistent with foraging, with no domesticated wheat or barley in evidence at the time of construction. The labour demands of Gobekli Tepe would have been immense for mobile populations, yet they were met repeatedly over centuries. These builders were not an urban civilization. They were small, mobile, yet capable of executing architectural projects that historians once assumed only centralized societies could attempt. Excavations reveal repeated modification and continued use over centuries, suggesting that each enclosure was part of an ongoing ritual or communal practice. Some pillars were relocated, others repaired or recarved, and additional stone elements were added atop earlier constructions. This layered development implies continuity of purpose, not one-off ambition. The site's longevity challenges assumptions about temporal limits in hunter-gatherer organisation, revealing an enduring commitment to place, symbol and labour that had no parallel in nearby regions. The enclosures were not abandoned until they were deliberately entombed. The enclosures were intentionally buried beneath layers of soil, a mysterious act that preserved them yet erased the very evidence of their creator's intentions. Archaeologists note that the burial appears systematic, with stones carefully covered rather than collapsed. The motives for this act remain entirely speculative. No written records or oral traditions survive to explain it. This deliberate concealment paradoxically protects the site while deepening its mystery, creating a tableau of human ingenuity that is both monumental and silent, preserved against time yet withholding its rationale. The presence of such advanced structures forces archaeologists to reconsider the sequence in which ritual, settlement, and civilization are thought to emerge. Gobekli Tepe demonstrates that monumental religious or symbolic construction can precede agriculture, challenging the long-held assumption that farming was a prerequisite for large-scale collective activity. It hints at the possibility that social complexity and spiritual life might have driven the adoption of agriculture rather than the reverse. The site exists at the intersection of fact and implication, revealing that human development may have followed paths historians had not imagined. Despite the monumental effort invested in construction, the site offers no written records, no personal markings, and no narrative that explains who built it or why. stone remains as mute as the limestone ridge itself, leaving only physical traces to speak for the builder's intentions. In the absence of textual evidence, every carved animal, every upright pillar, and every buried enclosure must be interpreted cautiously. Yet, it is precisely this silence that magnifies the mystery, forcing modern observers to confront ingenuity without context and monumental purpose without explanation. Gobekli Tepe may mark a threshold of human complexity rather than its beginning, hinting at cultural capabilities that remain invisible elsewhere in the archaeological record. Its existence implies that the roots of symbolic thought, coordinated labour, and ritual expression extend far deeper into prehistory than previously acknowledged. Each stone circle functions as a marker of human ambition, imagination, and organisation, suggesting knowledge, intent, and societal capacity that challenge the neat narratives of linear progress. It stands as both proof and puzzle, a reminder that the human story has layers yet undiscovered, waiting beneath the soil. Beneath the carved stones and buried enclosures, the past waits quietly, suggesting knowledge and purpose that the timeline refuses to acknowledge. The Antikythera mechanism. Among the coral-encrusted timbers of the Antikythera shipwreck, divers uncovered a small bronze object whose intricate design defied everything expected of its age. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than a corroded relic, a fragment of maritime debris. Yet careful cleaning and study revealed a lattice of interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions, arranged with a precision that suggested deliberate engineering rather than chance. This small, compact device, retrieved from a sunken Roman-era vessel off the coast of Greece, would come to be recognised as the most sophisticated mechanical artefact of antiquity, and one that quietly challenges assumptions about what the ancient world could achieve. Encased in corrosion, the device preserves dozens of interlocking gears and inscriptions, dating confidently to the 1st century BCE. Radiocarbon and metallurgical studies place its creation within the Hellenistic period, a time when philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy flourished in the Eastern Mediterranean. Yet nothing else from this period approaches the level of mechanical complexity found in this single object. Its survival through 2 millennia of sea, sediment, and corrosion seems almost miraculous, leaving scholars to wonder not just how it was built, but why nothing comparable has been found elsewhere in antiquity. When its gears are set in motion, the mechanism maps the movements of the sun, moon, and perhaps even planets, offering a miniature cosmos in bronze. The device appears capable of predicting lunar phases, solar and lunar eclipses, and the irregularities of the moon's orbit, including the 18-year Saros cycle. These astronomical calculations, encoded in the careful arrangement of toothed wheels, represent knowledge previously assumed to be beyond the technological capabilities of the era. The mechanism transforms abstract celestial cycles into mechanical motion, creating a tangible interface with the heavens that is astonishing in both concept and execution. Each cog and wheel reflects mathematical relationships that would not reappear in mechanical devices for more than 1,000 years, hinting at an advanced understanding long forgotten. The teeth on its gears are carefully calculated to produce accurate ratios, requiring not only exceptional craftsmanship but also a deep grasp of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering principles. The sophistication implies knowledge of differential gearing, a concept not documented until medieval times, and yet here it exists fully functional, hidden away on a small island in the Aegean. The precision of its movement suggests that the maker was capable of abstract reasoning and applied mechanics far beyond what conventional history credits to the era. Tiny Greek letters etched across the surfaces provide guidance and numerical markers, revealing that the creators documented celestial calculations with remarkable care. The inscriptions include names of months, signs of the zodiac, and instructions for interpreting the dials. While parts of the text are fragmentary, they indicate the device was intended not merely as a novelty but as a functional instrument. Scholars speculate that it may have served as a teaching tool or reference for astronomers, enabling calculations of lunar cycles, eclipses, and possibly even the timing of athletic games or religious festivals aligned with celestial events. Each inscription adds both clarity and mystery to its purpose. No equivalent device has been found from the same period, leaving the Antikythera mechanism as a solitary testament to lost knowledge and human ingenuity. Historians and archaeologists have scoured Mediterranean collections, ancient shipwrecks, and museum holdings, yet nothing remotely comparable has emerged. Its isolation raises profound questions. Who conceived such an object, and why was this knowledge not disseminated more widely? Was it the product of a single extraordinary mind, a school of specialized engineers, or a tradition now completely erased from history? Its solitary existence amplifies its mystery, suggesting that a vast intellectual framework may have once existed, now irretrievably lost. Only through X-rays, 3D imaging, and meticulous reconstruction have researchers uncovered the full complexity of the gears hidden beneath centuries of corrosion. Modern technology has revealed over 30 gears, many layered in multiple planes, interconnected with subtle ratios and exact tolerances. Computed tomography and surface scanning have allowed experts to model the original device digitally, revealing hidden mechanisms and their astronomical functions. These reconstructions demonstrate that the mechanism was not merely decorative, it was fully operational, a precise analog computer of the ancient world capable of converting complex celestial patterns into readable, mechanical motion. The craftsmen who conceived, measured, and assembled the components left no other trace, vanishing into history with their methods and expertise. No workshop remains, no instructional texts survive, and no students or successors are documented. The level of precision required suggests specialized knowledge, likely accumulated through years of practice and training. Yet all evidence of this tradition has disappeared. The maker's anonymity adds a human dimension to the enigma. Brilliant hands shaped a device that would survive millennia, but their names, intentions, and broader context are irrecoverably lost. Scholars continue to debate whether the device served primarily as a predictive calendar, an astronomical teaching tool, or a demonstration of technical mastery, yet its precision is undeniable. Its potential to model eclipses and the irregular motion of celestial bodies implies a practical application, possibly for planning religious, agricultural, or civic events. Simultaneously, the sheer complexity could reflect intellectual ambition, a desire to create a tangible embodiment of celestial order. In either case, the mechanism demonstrates a cognitive sophistication that aligns with advanced scientific thought, presenting evidence of ancient understanding far beyond what the surviving historical record usually allows. Mechanical principles embedded in its design foreshadow innovations in clocks, orreries, and differential gearing that would not appear until centuries later. The device seems to leap across the historical record, appearing fully formed, complete, and immediately functional. Later technologies in medieval Europe, including astronomical clocks and analog calculators, echo mechanisms anticipated by the Antikythera device, yet there is no documented lineage connecting the two. The gap underscores a discontinuity in technological history, as if an entire branch of knowledge existed for a moment, then vanished from human memory. Even after more than a century of careful study, the mechanism offers no personal clues about its creators, leaving it as a mute intermediary between human intelligence and history. Despite repeated investigations, every new insight into its function only deepens the sense of wonder. The fragments recovered continue to speak through motion and mathematics, rather than narrative or inscription, leaving modern scholars to interpret their purpose indirectly. Each turning gear silently testifies to the ingenuity of a mind that bridged observation, mathematics, and craftsmanship at a level that would remain unrivaled for more than a millennium. Encased in centuries of rust and sediment, the Antikythera mechanism continues its silent calculations, counting celestial patterns that the ancient world alone once mastered. The London Hammer. Along a shallow creek in East Texas, Max Hahn's casual excavation revealed a rock unlike any other, within which a metallic hammer lay partially exposed, provoking immediate wonder and skepticism. The discovery in 1936 seemed mundane at first, yet the unusual concretion immediately hinted at something extraordinary. Unlike ordinary tools scattered along riverbeds, this hammer was partially embedded in a solid, stone-like mass, making its origin and age a mystery. From the moment it was unearthed, scientists and observers alike grappled with the unsettling possibility that a simple implement could defy the conventional timeline of human technological development. The hammer measures just under 6 inches, with a smooth iron head and traces of a wooden handle still visible. Yet its design seems surprisingly modern compared with its surrounding geological matrix. The head is cylindrical with a slight taper toward the striking end, while the wooden core, though partially mineralized, retains enough structure to reveal how it was once attached. Its proportions and materials align with tools produced in more recent centuries, creating an immediate tension between its apparent familiarity and the ancient context suggested by the surrounding concretion. Surrounded by a hardened concretion of limestone and clay, the artifact appears to have been trapped in stone for a duration that challenges conventional understanding of both geology and human history. The concretion's density and mineral composition suggest a process that normally takes millions of years, raising questions about how a man-made object could be preserved in such a formation. To many observers, the hammer seemed to present an impossible paradox, a manufactured tool, fully formed, sitting in rock that geology implies is far older than humanity itself. News of the discovery spread quickly among local collectors and scientists, drawing both fascination and skepticism. Witnesses described the hammer as ordinary in appearance, yet the rock's unusual hardness and mineral composition immediately set it apart from ordinary creek stones. Geologists visiting the site measured the concretion and marvelled at its density, noting that no casual explanation could account for a man-made object embedded so firmly. For decades, letters, photographs, and field notes circulated, keeping the artifact in the minds of those intrigued by anomalies in both human history and geology. Laboratory examination has revealed iron of remarkable purity, alongside organic remnants of wood, sparking questions about preservation, corrosion, and the processes that could encase such an object intact. X-ray analysis and metallurgical studies show that the iron contains few impurities, which is surprising for a tool of its supposed antiquity. The wooden core, while degraded, retains identifiable cellular structures, suggesting that the mineralization process occurred gradually and under conditions that prevented complete decay. Together, these findings underscore the artifact's enigmatic nature. Experts studying the concretion note that formations of this density and mineral composition normally develop over millions of years, with layers of calcium carbonate and silicate slowly accreting around objects. Small inclusions of quartz and fossil fragments suggest sedimentation in a freshwater environment, raising questions about how an iron tool, crafted by humans, could become embedded without disrupting the surrounding strata. These observations highlight the delicate balance of preservation, mineralization, and environmental factors required to allow such an artifact to survive virtually intact, a combination exceedingly rare in natural settings. Scientists have proposed alternate explanations suggesting modern contamination or misidentification, yet none of these theories fully account for the iron's embedded context or the concretion's apparent age. Some skeptics argue that the hammer may have fallen into a crevice or been accidentally buried, but the hardness and completeness of the surrounding rock challenge this notion. Each hypothesis seems insufficient to explain the artifact's combination of metal, wood, and stone, leaving both amateur and professional researchers intrigued by the anomaly. When compared to documented hammers from historical periods, the London hammer displays anomalies in shape, taper, and attachment methods that distinguish it from conventional ancient tools. Its head design resembles 19th century implements more than primitive hammers, yet its concretion contradicts any dating that would place it in modern times. Such contradictions fuel curiosity, pushing scholars to consider possibilities that straddle geology, archaeology, and metallurgy in ways rarely demanded by other artifacts. Should the concretion's geological dating be accurate, the hammer would predate human civilization by millions of years, a claim that continues to unsettle timelines accepted by archaeology. The implications are profound. Either the concretion formed unusually fast, or there exists a gap in understanding regarding prehistoric metallurgy and human presence. Both options challenge the conventional narrative, raising the uncomfortable possibility that a single unassuming artifact may upend centuries of historical assumptions. In recent decades, the hammer has been the subject of renewed study using modern technology. Microscopic analysis of the iron's corrosion patterns, along with attempts at radiometric dating of the surrounding concretion, have offered tantalizing clues yet no definitive answers. Each method confirms that the concretion is extraordinarily old, while the hammer itself shows no signs of modern manufacturing. Scholars continue to debate whether the artifact represents a geological anomaly, historical outlier, or an unrecognized chapter of technological development, and the debates themselves have become a part of the artifact's enduring mystique. The artifact's survival, with both iron and wood intact within the concretion, indicates a set of natural conditions that are extraordinarily rare, allowing it to endure where most materials would decay completely. The concretion protected the hammer from water erosion, chemical breakdown, and microbial activity, while preserving traces of its original construction. This combination of factors makes the London hammer an extraordinary case study for both geologists and metallurgists, demonstrating how unusual environmental conditions can produce the preservation of a manufactured object far beyond expected timescales. Currently housed in a private collection, the hammer has been photographed, measured, and analysed repeatedly, yet each study seems only to deepen the enigma rather than resolve it. Scholars, enthusiasts, and skeptics alike visit, examining every angle of the iron, the wood, and the surrounding matrix. Each new analysis uncovers details, composition, wear patterns, mineralization, but no explanation fully reconciles the artifact with its environment. Its persistent mystery has made it both a scientific curiosity and a cultural enigma, bridging natural history and human history in ways few objects ever do. Despite careful observation and repeated scrutiny, the hammer continues to confront researchers with the unsettling possibility that our understanding of history, technology, and geological processes may be incomplete. Every attempt to contextualize it within known timelines produces inconsistencies, emphasizing the artifact's role as a puzzle at the intersection of geology and human invention. The London hammer remains at once ordinary and extraordinary, a small tool that prompts enormous questions, quietly defying expectations about the past and challenging assumptions about the capabilities and timelines of early human innovation. Locked within its stony cradle for untold ages, the London hammer poses a question no fossil or timeline has yet answered. Who forged it, and in what world? The Baghdad Battery. In 1938, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig uncovered a curious clay jar near Baghdad, its contents immediately hinting at a mystery that modern science still struggles to explain. The object appeared unremarkable at first glance, a simple clay vessel, but its internal components suggested a purpose that defied conventional understanding of Parthian technology. Within the jar, a tightly rolled copper cylinder encased an iron rod, sealed with asphalt, forming an assembly that, under certain conditions, could conduct electrical current. From the moment of its discovery, the artifact challenged assumptions about the sophistication of ancient experimentation and the limits of early human ingenuity. Inside the jar lay a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod, sealed with a hardened asphalt plug, forming a combination of materials that could, in principle, generate a small electrical charge. The copper shows slight corrosion consistent with age, while the iron rod retains traces of oxidation that suggest long-term chemical interaction with its surroundings. Experts have marvelled at the precision with which the components were fitted together, noting that the assembly exhibits a sophistication rarely documented in artefacts from this period. The juxtaposition of natural materials with deliberate design raises questions about the knowledge and intentions of its creators. Dating to the Parthian period, approximately 250 BCE to 250 CE, the artifact sits at an unexpected intersection of antiquity and technological sophistication. Excavated from the Qujat Rabu ruins just south of Baghdad, the jar's context suggests it was not an isolated curiosity, but part of a culture capable of advanced craftsmanship. While the Parthians are known for art, architecture, and trade networks, little else in the archaeological record hints at knowledge of electrical principles, making the jar a striking anomaly. Its presence forces a re-evaluation of assumptions about experimentation, innovation, and the subtle technologies that may have existed in ancient Mesopotamia. When researchers attempted to replicate the device using acidic solutions such as vinegar or citrus juice, it produced measurable voltage, confirming that the components could, in principle, generate electricity. Laboratory reconstructions showed small currents sufficient to electroplate thin layers of metal onto objects. These results, while modest, demonstrate that the artifact could have served as a primitive electrical apparatus. The notion that such an experiment existed centuries before the advent of formal electrical theory is both compelling and disorienting, suggesting that lost knowledge may be buried in plain sight within history. Yet many scholars argue that its purpose was not electrical, proposing instead that the jar may have served ritualistic, symbolic, or storage functions long lost to history. Some contend that the asphalt plug was simply a sealing method for scrolls or other sacred materials, while others believe the device may have been an alchemical container used in chemical or metallurgical processes unrelated to electricity. The lack of written records or inscriptions leaves interpretations speculative, and every explanation must contend with the artifact's unusual assembly and the observable electrical properties revealed through modern experimentation. Close inspection reveals corrosion patterns and craftsmanship that suggest deliberate assembly, while the materials themselves are capable of conducting electricity under certain conditions. The copper cylinder and iron rod are remarkably uniform in shape and size, with precise tolerances suggesting careful measurement and intent. The asphalt ceiling, while cracked in places, shows evidence of repeated handling, implying that the jar may have been used multiple times. Together, these observations create a picture of a culture engaging with materials in ways that modern science can measure, yet cannot fully contextualize. Excavations at Kujut Rabu revealed other small artifacts nearby, clay vessels, metal fragments and tools that hint at an environment of experimentation and craft. Some of these objects display wear patterns or metal residues suggesting repeated chemical processes, while the placement of the jars within structures points to a deliberate arrangement rather than casual storage. These associated finds, though modest, reinforce the possibility that the Baghdad battery was part of a broader culture of applied science, where the manipulation of metals and solutions may have been observed, recorded, or even taught in rudimentary workshops. Though unique, the Baghdad battery finds faint echoes in other anomalous artifacts, hinting that isolated experiments with basic electrical principles may have existed elsewhere in antiquity. Comparable jars have been unearthed in regions of Mesopotamia and along ancient trade routes, though none match the sophistication of Koenig's find. These objects collectively suggest that experimentation with metals, electrolytes and chemical reactions may not have been entirely unknown, even if the theoretical framework to explain them was absent. Such evidence invites speculation about the scope of ancient technological curiosity and its possible applications. Mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, emphasizing that experimental success does not necessarily prove intended function and warning against projecting modern science onto ancient hands. Critics argue that laboratory reconstructions are insufficient to establish the artifact's purpose, noting that accidental electrochemical activity could occur without design intent. Others point out that no contemporary records describe electricity or its effects, leaving the Baghdad battery dangling in a liminal space between plausible experimentation and misinterpreted ritual. The debate persists, highlighting the challenge of reconciling artifact, context, and interpretation. If functional, the device could have allowed for small-scale chemical reactions or electroplating, offering a glimpse into experimental ingenuity centuries before formal electrical theory emerged. Simple currents might have been used to coat jewellery, create religious symbols in metal, or conduct basic laboratory work. While these applications are speculative, the demonstration of measurable voltage confirms that ancient hands had the potential to manipulate materials in ways modern observers find remarkable. The artifact thus becomes both a testament to human ingenuity and a window into lost practices that have vanished from the historical record. Today, the jar and its components reside in the Baghdad Museum, preserved under careful study, yet continuing to provoke curiosity and debate among historians, scientists, and enthusiasts alike. Photographs, measurements, and experimental reconstructions circulate widely, keeping the artifact in public and scholarly consciousness. Despite extensive documentation, each revisit uncovers new questions about its manufacture, usage, and significance. The Baghdad battery remains a small, silent object whose presence challenges our assumptions, a reminder that even humble artifacts can disrupt long-held ideas about the past. Though examined, photographed, and tested repeatedly, the Baghdad battery resists definitive explanation, remaining a quiet reminder of the sophistication that may have existed in an age we assume was electrically ignorant. Its combination of metals, sealants, and structural design continues to fascinate, confound, and inspire theories, offering a rare bridge between practical craftsmanship and theoretical possibility in antiquity. Every attempt to contextualize it within known historical frameworks exposes gaps in understanding, forcing a reconsideration of what is truly known about ancient technology. Sealed in clay for millennia, the Baghdad battery hums with a silent question. Did ancient hands glimpse the power of electricity long before history dared to record it? The map that showed Antarctica. A fragment of parchment, worn by time yet vivid in its inked coastlines, presents a world more detailed than history had credited to the early 16th century. Its lines curve and stretch with a precision that draws the eye, suggesting a knowledge of geography far beyond what contemporaries could verify. When scholars first examined the piece, they were struck not only by the care of its drawing but by the implied sophistication of the sources behind it. This is a map that seems to whisper of voyages, measurements, and observations long lost to human memory, hinting at knowledge that predates recorded exploration. Stretching across the delicate sheet, the southern tips of continents and scattered islands appear with astonishing precision, defying the limits of contemporary navigation. The inked lines are crisp in places, smudged in others, as though the cartographer laboured to reconcile conflicting reports from explorers whose names have been forgotten. Island chains, peninsulas, and coastlines follow contours that, when compared to modern maps, match surprisingly well in scale and orientation. Every feature, from jagged bays to rounded promontories, suggests that the map was more than conjecture. It may have recorded observations made far beyond the navigational capabilities historically attributed to the era. Compiled from a mosaic of earlier charts, some from lost voyages, others whispered through traders, the map merges knowledge from civilizations long vanished. Piri Reis, the Ottoman admiral credited with its creation, noted in accompanying notes that he had drawn upon information from the charts of the Western lands, and sought to reconcile them into a comprehensive whole. Scholars have identified potential sources ranging from Mediterranean mariners to Portuguese explorers, yet the trail is incomplete, leaving gaps that continue to tantalize historians. The map's surviving fragment hints at a global network of knowledge, now only partially recovered, that could have informed its astonishing accuracy. A frozen continent emerges at the edge of the known world, its outlines hinting at ice-free shores and mountain ranges invisible to explorers for centuries. Modern comparison reveals that these depictions align remarkably with the northern coastline of Antarctica, suggesting that either precise observation or extraordinarily detailed secondary reports informed the drawing. The presence of such a depiction long before Antarctica's documented discovery in 1820 challenges conventional timelines, provoking questions about the methods used to chart a land no human was supposed to have seen. Each curve of the coastline, each bay, seems deliberate, hinting at information passed down through unknown hands or voyages. Rivers, bays, and promontories are rendered with a clarity that would later challenge cartographers, relying on telescopic measurements and surveys. Small islands are positioned with uncanny precision, while the relative angles of peninsulas suggest a sophisticated understanding of scale and orientation. Observers have noted that certain distortions, while inconsistent with modern projections, may reflect an attempt to reconcile multiple sources or account for the curvature of the globe. Whether through careful calculation or remarkable intuition, the map exhibits a level of craftsmanship and geographic knowledge that appears centuries ahead of its time. Investigators have traced potential sources for the map, from Greek geographers to Portuguese navigators, yet no definitive lineage explains the Antarctic depiction. Some hypothesize that ancient civilizations may have charted coastlines during brief periods of ice retreat, while others suggest that lost expeditions recorded the region before official documentation. References in Piri Reis notes mention utilizing captured or acquired charts from seafarers of unknown origin, implying that information may have traversed vast networks. The true origins of the knowledge embedded in the parchment remain elusive, lending the map a sense of quiet, persistent mystery. Analysis of scale, angle, and projection reveals sections that align uncannily with true geography, while other areas appear stretched or stylized, deepening the enigma. Cartographers attempting to reconcile the fragment with known maps have been struck by the precision of certain coastlines, which seem to anticipate modern satellite measurements. Yet alongside this accuracy are distortions that cannot be fully explained, as if the map combines observation with conjecture, a hybrid of fact and interpretation. These anomalies continue to fascinate, suggesting a lost method of surveying or an accumulation of knowledge that predates formal cartography. Critics suggest misinterpretation or extrapolation from South American coastlines, warning that human imagination may have filled in the unknown rather than record it. They argue that the ice-free depiction of Antarctica could be coincidental or symbolic, reflecting projections from nearby lands. Others propose that ancient sailors may have glimpsed islands in southern waters, later extended artistically into a southern continent. Each theory underscores the challenge of separating factual observation from interpretive embellishment, yet none can fully account for the level of geographical accuracy evident in multiple regions of the map. If the Antarctic representation is accurate, it implies observation or information from expeditions lost to time, a glimpse of exploration that predates recorded history. The possibility that seafarers mapped the southern continent centuries before its official discovery stretches imagination and challenges assumptions about early navigation. Considerations of ocean currents, wind patterns, and rudimentary surveying techniques suggest that such voyages, while perilous, may not have been impossible. The map thus stands as a testament to human curiosity and the persistence of knowledge, hints of which may have survived in fragments, notes, and the careful hands of cartographers like Piri Reis. The surviving fragment resides behind glass in Istanbul, its fragile inked lines studied, photographed, and traced by generations of scholars who debate every contour. Visitors to the Topkapi Palace Museum peer at its coastlines, attempting to reconcile the familiar with the impossible. Every examination raises questions about what was truly known in the early 16th century, and how much knowledge from antiquity may have been passed down in ways we can only guess at. The fragment's continued allure lies in its ability to provoke curiosity without ever revealing complete answers. Even with modern techniques to analyse geography and cartographic methods, the map retains a mysterious authority, as if insisting on secrets it refuses to reveal. It embodies the tension between recorded history and the hints of exploration that may have gone unrecorded, tantalising observers with evidence that cannot be fully reconciled. Its coastlines speak across centuries, inviting speculation about lost voyages, ancient knowledge, and the ingenuity of minds that sought to capture a world far larger than their immediate experience. The map is both artifact and enigma, an enduring puzzle of geography and human ambition. Each line etched on the parchment whispers of journeys never chronicled, a world glimpsed before history knew it existed. The Sacsayhuaman stone precision. Rising above the Peruvian plains, the walls of Sacsayhuaman loom like a fortress sculpted by forces beyond ordinary human hands, their massive stones locked together with uncanny precision. The terraces stretch across the hillside, twisting and stepping with deliberate rhythm, as if the landscape itself had guided the builder's vision. Sunlight glints off weathered surfaces, highlighting subtle curves and angles that suggest careful planning and design. Every shadow seems to accentuate the audacity of the construction, hinting at a knowledge of geometry and material behaviour that defies what conventional history attributes to pre-Columbian societies. Each block, some estimated to weigh over 100 tons, is irregular in shape yet fits perfectly with its neighbours, forming walls that curve and interlock in complex polygonal patterns. The stones vary in colour and texture, some darkened by centuries of weathering, others streaked with mineral deposits, yet each seems deliberately placed to complement the next. Observers note that no two stones are identical, yet they mesh with flawless continuity, creating surfaces that appear almost seamless despite the massive scale. The effort to individually shape and position these megaliths would have required patience, skill, and perhaps knowledge now lost. The interlocking polygons form joints so tight that even a thin blade cannot pass between them, a testament to skills that remain difficult to comprehend. In some sections, the stones curve in gentle arcs, creating walls that defy simple stacking, while other blocks twist slightly to accommodate neighbouring shapes. The precision achieved in the fit is remarkable not only for its aesthetic impact, but also for its structural resilience, allowing the walls to endure centuries of wind, rain, and shifting soil without collapse. Each joint seems to convey intention and mastery beyond casual construction. How these colossal stones were transported from distant quarries and positioned with such accuracy remains one of archaeology's most enduring puzzles. Some stones were carried from sites miles away, yet there is no trace of conventional dragging methods or mechanical equipment. Theories include elaborate earthen ramps, rolling logs, lever systems, or coordinated human labour, but none fully explain the subtle placement required for perfect interlocking. Observers continue to speculate on the logistics, imagining vast teams of workers, precise measurements, and ingenious techniques, many of which may have been deliberately guarded or passed down orally and eventually lost. Engineers studying the site have marvelled at the wall's resistance to seismic activity, noting that their precise interlocking allows them to absorb tremors that would shatter ordinary masonry. Earthquakes that rock the Andes left Sacsayhuaman largely intact, its stones shifting slightly without toppling, a natural earthquake-resistant design that modern engineers have attempted to replicate experimentally. Tests of friction, weight distribution, and contact angles reveal a knowledge of structural dynamics that seems intuitive yet sophisticated, hinting at a culture deeply attuned to the forces that would challenge their constructions over centuries. Recent studies using laser scanning, 3D modelling, and stress analysis have revealed that Sacsayhuaman's stones distribute weight in ways that appear almost intentional, with contact surfaces angled to reduce friction and absorb shock. Researchers have noted subtle concave and convex forms that channel stress across multiple blocks, allowing the walls to move slightly under pressure without breaking. Even the placement of smaller stones in gaps seems to reinforce stability, suggesting an empirical knowledge of physics that would not be formally articulated for centuries. These findings deepen the enigma, implying that the builders understood principles that modern engineers can only approximate with sophisticated technology. Evidence of careful chiseling, smoothing, and shaping on the stone surfaces suggests techniques far more advanced than the tools traditionally attributed to the Inca. Tool marks indicate repeated refinement, as if each stone was tested in place before final placement. Small grooves and depressions may have allowed the builders to lever stones into exact positions, while flat surfaces appear to have been meticulously polished to eliminate gaps. The level of patience and precision implied suggests either extraordinary trial and error methods or an understanding of stone behaviour that modern researchers still struggle to explain fully. Early Spanish chroniclers recorded the walls with astonishment, noting the perfect fit of stones and the audacity of the builder's vision, often struggling to describe what they saw. Their accounts frequently emphasized the apparent impossibility of the construction, remarking that the walls seemed to rise with a harmony and complexity far beyond European masonry traditions of the time. These observers noted both admiration and bewilderment, leaving a written echo of the awe inspired by structures whose methods remain opaque centuries later. In comparison to other megalithic sites such as Ollantaytambo or Pumapunku, Sacsayhuaman stands out for both scale and geometric sophistication, hinting at a broader tradition of stone mastery in the Andes. While other sites share the polygonal fitting technique, Sacsayhuaman's massive blocks and sweeping terraces suggest a level of design that is both functional and symbolic. The alignment of walls and terraces with the natural contours of the hillside, and possibly with astronomical or ceremonial points, reinforces the idea that precision was intentional, not only for engineering but for cultural expression as well. The methods behind this precision continue to baffle, with each study raising more questions than answers and leaving the construction process tantalizingly obscure. Attempts to recreate similar structures with contemporary tools demonstrate the immense challenge involved, particularly in achieving both perfect fit and seismic stability. The work demands coordination, patience, and techniques that are not easily inferred from the physical evidence alone, leaving the exact methods shrouded in speculation. Every theory, no matter how plausible, underscores the enduring mystery of human ingenuity at Sacsayhuaman. The wall's alignment, curvature, and craftsmanship suggest more than mere practicality. They hint at ceremonial or symbolic purpose, implying that precision carried meaning beyond structure. Certain terraces appear oriented toward the rising sun at solstices, while other walls trace lines visible only from particular vantage points, suggesting deliberate integration with the landscape. The careful shaping and positioning of each block may reflect spiritual beliefs, cosmology, or social hierarchy, hinting that the builders understood symbolism and engineering as intertwined disciplines. Visitors who walk the terraces and trace the stone joints are often struck by a quiet awe, sensing a mastery of form and scale that challenges conventional understanding of pre-Columbian engineering. Each step reveals a rhythm to the walls, a deliberate pacing of height, width, and polygonal arrangement that resonates both visually and physically. The effect is almost hypnotic, as if the stones themselves are communicating a message about human ambition, patience, and reverence for craft that transcends time and culture. Every joint and angle whispers of knowledge now vanished, leaving observers to wonder whether the builder's hands knew secrets the world has yet to rediscover. The Saqqara bird. Tucked within the shadowed recesses of a Saqqara tomb, a small wooden figure lies almost unremarked among the treasures of the pharaohs, yet its shape and form hint at knowledge that seems centuries ahead of its time. The figure is modest in size, carved with delicate attention, but its unusual features immediately invite scrutiny. Wings that flare with subtle curvature, a tail designed with aerodynamic intent, and a falcon-like head that tilts as if aware of unseen currents. To the casual observer it may seem a mere trinket, yet for those who examine it closely, every line and angle whispers of a deeper mystery that challenges conventional timelines of human ingenuity. Carved from a single piece of wood, the figure stretches just over 15 centimeters, its wings tapered with a subtle curve, tail streamlined, and a falcon-like head angled with deliberate attention. The craftsmanship is remarkably precise, with surfaces polished to a smooth finish and joints between wings and body integrated seamlessly. Scholars have noted the elegant simplicity of the design, which belies the complexity of what it suggests, an understanding of flight principles far ahead of its documented era. The figure's contours and proportions create a natural symmetry that is visually compelling and functionally intriguing. Discovered in the early 20th century among funerary artifacts, the Saqqara bird was catalogued alongside bowls, statuettes, and ceremonial objects, initially dismissed as a child's toy or decorative amulet. Its placement in a burial context seemed to reinforce the assumption that it was symbolic, perhaps a plaything for the deceased in the afterlife or a representation of a sacred animal. Archaeologists noted the careful craftsmanship but assumed it reflected artistic skill rather than technical knowledge. Over time, however, renewed attention to its form and geometry began to challenge these initial interpretations. Modern analysis, however, has revealed that the tiny wings and tail are shaped with surprising symmetry, prompting engineers to speculate that it could glide under certain conditions. Wind tunnel experiments with replicas suggest that the figure exhibits lift characteristics consistent with rudimentary gliding, though stability is difficult to maintain without precise adjustment. The proportions of the wings to the body, the slight upward tilt of the tail, and the centre of gravity all indicate that the original creator may have observed natural flight or conducted experiments, even if only in miniature form. Latest experiments using carefully crafted replicas have revealed that slight adjustments in wing angle or tail alignment dramatically change the figure's gliding potential, suggesting that whoever created it may have been experimenting with basic principles of lift and balance. Tests conducted in controlled airflow chambers indicate that the miniature bird can maintain brief, stable glides under ideal conditions, though minor variations in its structure or environment cause erratic motion. These results underscore the possibility that the artifact was not purely symbolic, hinting at a level of empirical observation and iterative refinement that has no precedent in surviving records from its era. Its profile bears an uncanny resemblance to the airfoils used in contemporary gliders, with curves that appear designed to catch and channel airflow, defying conventional expectations of ancient craftsmanship. While modern engineers refine such shapes with mathematical precision, this small artifact seems to anticipate principles of aerodynamics thousands of years before they were formally understood. The thought that an ancient artisan could intuitively replicate functional flight forms is both remarkable and unsettling, challenging assumptions about technological progress in early civilizations. Debate continues over whether the bird served a symbolic purpose or was intended as a functional prototype, with advocates for both sides citing evidence from iconography, tomb context, and structural analysis. Some suggest that it represents the soul's journey in the afterlife, reflecting Egyptian beliefs about resurrection and transformation. Others argue that the aerodynamic qualities are too precise to be accidental, implying early experimentation with gliding, flight modelling, or even mechanical principles that were never fully developed or documented. The density of the wood, balanced weight distribution, and smooth contours suggest deliberate experimentation, even if the exact intent remains uncertain, hinting at a culture capable of observation and trial. The figure is lightweight yet firm, capable of maintaining its shape under minimal stress. Measurements reveal that slight adjustments to wing angles alter its flight potential, a detail unlikely to occur by chance. These features suggest a combination of empirical observation and careful refinement, hinting that whoever created it understood how form influences motion, at least in a small-scale model. Contextual study of ancient Egyptian technological knowledge indicates a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, geometry, and mechanical principles was present, even if not widely applied to flight. Egyptians engineered monumental structures with precision, designed complex irrigation systems, and created intricate mechanisms for measuring time, yet no surviving records mention attempts at aviation. The Saqqara bird, therefore, appears as an anomaly, a tangible piece that bridges the known achievements of the civilization with an area that should have been impossible. Replicas of the Saqqara bird have been tested in laboratories, some managing short glides and others tumbling unpredictably, reinforcing the enigmatic nature of its design and raising questions about the original creator's intent. Variations in angle, weight, and environmental conditions dramatically affect performance, suggesting that practical knowledge, if applied, requires careful experimentation. The inconsistent results also highlight the possibility that the figure's function may have been symbolic, experimental, or even instructional, a teaching model that never led to fully developed aviation, but preserved key insights in miniature form. Researchers continue to argue over its purpose, torn between interpretations that frame it as symbolic funerary art and those suggesting it represents early experimentation with flight. Egyptologists emphasize cultural context and ritual significance, while engineers focus on functional potential, leaving the artifact suspended between two disciplines. Neither approach fully explains why a small, precise, and seemingly functional glider-like figure would appear so far ahead of its time, raising enduring questions about the interplay between observation, experimentation, and symbolic expression in ancient societies. For those who study it today, the Saqqara bird embodies both ingenuity and mystery, a whisper from the past that challenges assumptions about what humans were capable of achieving millennia before the Wright brothers. Its unassuming size belies the boldness of the knowledge it seems to imply, and every curve and angle invites further exploration. The figure stands as a testament not only to craftsmanship but to a human impulse to understand the world through experimentation, observation, and perhaps the desire to conquer the sky itself. Suspended in time and imagination, the tiny wooden bird leaves a question hovering over history itself. Did human curiosity soar far earlier than anyone imagined? The Iron Pillar of Delhi. Amid the bustling streets of Delhi, an ancient column of iron defies both weather and time, its surface strangely untarnished despite centuries of exposure. Visitors walking past might notice its massive presence without realizing its deeper mystery. Unlike nearly all iron objects from its era, the pillar has resisted corrosion for over 16 centuries. Archaeologists and metallurgists alike have marveled at its endurance, noting that the pillar's survival challenges conventional understanding of ancient technological capabilities. Every observation, from its polished sheen to the inscriptions etched into its body, suggests that this was no ordinary construction, but a feat of craftsmanship and knowledge far ahead of its time. Tapering gently over 7 meters, the pillar is adorned with inscriptions in Brahmi script, each groove meticulously etched into the metal, as if to mark both history and craftsmanship. Its diameter diminishes subtly toward the top, giving it an elegant, almost organic silhouette. Visitors often remark on the remarkable smoothness of its surface, which has endured monsoon rains and scorching heat alike. The inscriptions, though weathered, convey dedication and authority, speaking to the cultural and ceremonial importance of the monument. It is a silent witness to centuries of change in Delhi, yet its physical integrity remains virtually unchanged, defying the expectations of any observer familiar with the ironwork of its age. Constructed during the Gupta period, the iron pillar was likely dedicated to a revered king or the god Vishnu, yet its endurance surpasses any ordinary monument of its era. Historical records indicate that such columns were not uncommon in India, but none approached the durability or size of this particular example. Its placement and ceremonial purpose suggest reverence, yet the scientific marvel of its composition elevates it beyond religious or symbolic significance. Scholars continue to debate whether the pillar was intended primarily as a devotional monument, a display of technological prowess, or a combination of both, leaving its true intent tantalizingly elusive. Its extraordinary resistance to rust has long baffled scientists, who struggle to reconcile the pillar's survival with the corrosive forces of the environment. Most iron from the same period, when left exposed, develops significant oxidation within decades, yet this monument shows only minor signs of superficial decay. Chemical and structural analysis of the surface reveals a passive protective layer that has remained stable for centuries. The mystery is compounded by the fact that no ancient manuals, treatises, or inscriptions document the techniques used to achieve such corrosion resistance, leaving modern researchers to reconstruct possibilities from the artifact itself. Chemical analysis reveals unusually high phosphorus content, combined with an absence of sulfur and other impurities, creating a naturally protective layer over the iron that has endured for over 16 centuries. This layer, a phosphate-rich film, forms as the metal reacts slowly with moisture in the air, effectively preventing the formation of rust. Metallurgists have noted that achieving such purity and composition would require remarkable skill, precise selection of ore, and control over the smelting process, all without the benefit of modern furnaces or chemical additives. The result is a monument that stands not only as a religious or cultural artifact, but as an extraordinary technical achievement. The question of how ancient blacksmiths achieved such purity without modern smelting methods continues to intrigue historians, metallurgists, and engineers alike. Some hypothesize that repeated forging and hammering eliminated impurities, while others suggest empirical experimentation over generations produced the almost perfect alloy. The absence of slag and sulfur compounds, which normally accelerate corrosion, indicates a level of understanding that seems improbable for the 4th century CE. Whatever the method, the knowledge required to create this pillar appears lost to history, leaving the artifact as a silent enigma for all who examine it. Microscopic studies reveal a microstructure that fosters the formation of a thin, passive film, allowing the iron to resist corrosion in a manner rarely seen in any modern alloy. Observations under electron microscopes show layers of crystalline iron phosphate, uneven yet continuous, covering the surface. Modern metallurgists attempting to replicate this process with contemporary techniques have struggled to produce a comparable result, highlighting both the ingenuity of the ancient craftsman and the incomplete nature of our understanding. The pillar seems to embody a combination of skill, experimentation, and perhaps even trial and error, resulting in a phenomenon that has puzzled generations of scientists. Beyond its scientific intrigue, the pillar carries profound cultural significance, its inscriptions and presence hinting at ceremonial importance and the reverence of divine authority. Some scholars interpret the Brahmi inscriptions as dedicatory, honouring Vishnu or celebrating the reign of a Gupta ruler. The pillar's placement within a temple complex underscores its role as a focal point for both ritual and public observation. While much attention is paid to its metallurgical properties today, the original observers may have viewed it as a manifestation of divine favour, a material expression of permanence and spiritual power. Compared with contemporary ironwork from the same period, which often succumbs to rust within decades, the pillar stands as an extraordinary anomaly, a silent testament to ancient skill. Other monuments of wrought iron rarely exceed a few metres and show extensive corrosion, making the Delhi example unique in both scale and longevity. Its survival under monsoon rains, pollution, and centuries of human activity is not simply remarkable. It borders on miraculous from a technical standpoint. Researchers often describe it as an artifact out of time, a singular example of durability and design that seems to contradict the assumed limitations of ancient metallurgy. Scholars debate whether its durability was the result of intentional experimentation, accumulated empirical knowledge, or sheer serendipity, leaving much of its origin shrouded in mystery. Some argue the protective qualities were a deliberate achievement, a controlled combination of ore selection and forging technique. Others contend that it may have been the product of accumulated traditional methods, refined over generations without a full understanding of the underlying chemical principles. Either way, the pillar challenges modern assumptions about technological progress, demonstrating that remarkable feats were possible without modern science, even if the methods were never recorded or replicated. At present, the Iron Pillar of Delhi continues to awe visitors and researchers alike, an enduring symbol of technical mastery whose methods remain partially unexplained. Its silent presence evokes both admiration and curiosity, drawing observers into contemplation of the ingenuity required to create something both monumental and enduring. Each detail, from tapering proportions to surface composition, invites study and speculation, ensuring that the pillar remains a bridge between the known accomplishments of the Gupta period and the unanswered questions of ancient technology. Towering in quiet defiance of time, the pillar challenges us to ponder what knowledge ancient hands once commanded and how such mastery could fade into obscurity. The Dropper Stones of Tibet. Deep within a shadowed cave in the Biankaraula Mountains, a series of circular stone discs rests untouched, their spiral markings hinting at mysteries long forgotten. The high-altitude winds whistle through the jagged cliffs outside, a reminder of the isolation that has preserved these objects for decades. Explorers and researchers who have glimpsed photographs or fragments describe a sense of otherworldly precision in the disc's construction, as though someone had deliberately encoded knowledge within the grooves. For such small stones, their presence exerts a strange magnetism, drawing both curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. In 1938, the Chinese archaeologist Kipu encountered these discs while exploring a remote valley, where treacherous terrain and uncharted paths made every step a test of endurance. The expedition had initially set out to survey ancient burial sites, yet in a hidden cave they discovered rows of flat circular stones embedded in layers of loess and debris. Local villagers had reportedly noticed odd artifacts but dismissed them as inconsequential. Tay's meticulous notes described the disc's discovery as both remarkable and disorienting, with the cave's depths yielding a small collection of objects that seemed deliberately stored rather than scattered randomly. The stones range from 9 to 12 inches across, each carved with grooves spiralling toward the centre, their smooth surfaces reflecting meticulous workmanship and careful symmetry. Observers note that the grooves are neither shallow nor uneven. Instead, they form continuous lines that maintain consistent depth and curvature, even along fractured edges. The physical precision is striking, suggesting advanced control over stone shaping and a steady hand that could guide a tool with extraordinary accuracy. The disc's uniformity, despite minor variations in size, adds to their mystique, making them appear as though they belonged to a coordinated set or served a common purpose. Etched into these spirals are strange symbols that defy recognition, forming patterns that have yet to be deciphered by any linguist or epigrapher. Some glyphs resemble abstract pictograms, while others suggest a series of flowing lines not seen in any known writing system of the region. Attempts to align the inscriptions across multiple discs produce inconsistent results, hinting at a possibly non-linear or symbolic logic underlying their arrangement. This undeciphered script has fueled decades of speculation, from the mundane assumption of ritual markings to theories of communication beyond human comprehension. Some enthusiasts suggest that the discs preserve knowledge from unknown civilizations, or even extraterrestrial visitors, though no verifiable evidence supports such claims. Hypotheses range from astronomical charts to advanced engineering schematics, with proponents highlighting the precision of the grooves as indicative of intentional design rather than decorative art. Even skeptics admit that the level of craftsmanship and uniformity is unusual for the era and region, raising questions about the tools and techniques available to the disc creators. Whether these stones are relics of a lost civilization or a misunderstood ceremonial practice remains open to interpretation. Critical analysis raises doubts, emphasizing that records of their discovery are incomplete and that much of their provenance remains unverified. Some researchers have pointed out the absence of detailed excavation reports, precise measurements, or continuous custody records, leaving gaps that fuel both skepticism and intrigue. There are discrepancies in accounts of how many discs were found, their exact location in the cave, and the condition in which they were first observed. Yet even if some details are uncertain, the physical artifacts themselves, documented in photographs and occasional museum collections, persist as a tangible puzzle that demands explanation. Examination of the stone's surfaces reveals subtle chisel marks and precise incisions, hinting at a deliberate and methodical process that would challenge even skilled artisans. Microscopic inspection shows grooves that were likely formed using controlled rotational motion, perhaps with a rudimentary lathe or hand-guided technique. The absence of fractures along the spiral lines suggests extraordinary patience and foresight in carving, with craftsmen possibly adjusting for the stone's natural weaknesses. This level of precision implies a sophisticated understanding of materials and technique, contradicting assumptions about the technological limitations of the era. Ancient folklore tells of mysterious sky people who arrived from distant lands, lending an eerie narrative that intertwines myth and speculation with the enigmatic objects themselves. Stories passed down among local tribes describe visitors with pale skin and unusual knowledge, guiding the people in rituals or imparting enigmatic wisdom before vanishing into the mountains. While these tales cannot be verified, they provide cultural context that may have influenced both the creation and interpretation of the discs. The interplay of legend and artifact continues to blur the line between archaeology and mythology, leaving observers to wonder how much is grounded in reality. Attempts to reproduce the spiral carvings with primitive tools have consistently fallen short, underscoring the skill and patience required to craft each disc. Experimental archaeologists have tried using chisels, abrasive stones, and rudimentary drills, yet even with careful effort, the grooves fail to maintain the same consistency or smoothness as the originals. Such findings suggest either a lost technique, exceptional manual skill, or a combination of both. The difficulty in replication only heightens the mystery, prompting questions about who could have produced these discs and what knowledge or tools they possessed that remain unknown to us today. Research and debate continue, with no consensus emerging on the discs' origin, purpose, or meaning, leaving them suspended between archaeology and legend. Some believe they are remnants of an undocumented culture. Others consider them elaborate hoaxes, although no definitive proof of fabrication has ever been presented. Scientific attempts to date the discs through carbon residue or associated materials provide conflicting results, leaving the timeline ambiguous. The enduring uncertainty maintains their allure, offering a rare intersection of verifiable material culture and unfathomable mystery. The dropper stones endure as silent witnesses in their hidden cave, drawing attention to the limits of our understanding and the secrets that mountains can conceal. Scholars, enthusiasts, and curious travelers alike are captivated by their precision, inscriptions, and the enigmatic circumstances of their discovery. For all the study, debate, and speculation, the discs remain resolutely cryptic, hinting at knowledge or events that may have vanished from human memory. Their quiet presence in the Tibetan highlands continues to provoke questions about human ingenuity, lost traditions, and the possibility of encounters that defy conventional explanation. Silent for centuries within their hidden cavern, the discs challenge our understanding and hint at knowledge that may never be revealed. The Dendera light reliefs. Carvings etched into the stone ceiling hint at forms that challenge conventional interpretation, suggesting objects and energy long before their time. Their elongated shapes, curling filaments, and intricate connections seem almost alive beneath the shifting shadows cast by sunlight filtering through narrow temple openings. For centuries, Egyptologists and curious observers alike have struggled to reconcile the reliefs with conventional understanding, leaving the Temple of Hathor in Dendera as a place where symbolism, artistry, and enigma intertwine in ways that continue to puzzle modern eyes. Patterns of spirals and filaments emerge from lotus blossoms, intertwined with figures whose purpose remains elusive even after careful examination. Each figure, often grasping or guiding the twisting lines, seems to interact with forces invisible to the human eye. The precision of the carving suggests deliberate intention, as if the artisans encoded knowledge meant to convey both spiritual and practical insight. The spirals themselves are unusually uniform, their grooves shallow yet meticulously executed, hinting at a level of skill that challenges assumptions about ancient tools and techniques. Bulb-like shapes stretch across the relief, connected by twisting lines that appear to pulse with deliberate intention, defying simple interpretation. Some spirals terminate in what resemble coiled filaments, while others taper into shapes evocative of serpents or electrical arcs. Observers have remarked that the way light dances across these forms creates subtle illusions of movement, a feature that may have been understood and exploited by the artists themselves to convey energy or illumination in symbolic terms. Some interpretations suggest the imagery represents divine energy, creation myths or symbolic rituals tied to Hathor's worship. The goddess, associated with music, joy, and cosmic light, dominates the temple's iconography, and the reliefs may have been designed to communicate abstract concepts of power and energy central to Egyptian cosmology. The elongated forms may metaphorically express the flow of life force or celestial influence, creating a visual language that blends mythology with a subtle understanding of physics, or at least an attempt to convey unseen forces in tangible form. Alternative theories speculate these reliefs depict electrical phenomena, drawing parallels to modern light bulbs and their filaments. Some researchers suggest the central bulbs could represent early knowledge of electricity or illumination, pointing to an ancient civilization that experimented with energy in ways not recorded elsewhere. Though concrete proof remains absent, the resemblance between these forms and modern devices is striking, compelling both amateurs and scholars to question whether certain technological concepts may have existed far earlier than traditionally believed. Shadows cast along the carved lines enhance the illusion of depth, revealing subtleties that hint at advanced artistic techniques. When sunlight enters through temple openings at precise angles, the reliefs appear three-dimensional, with filaments and curves seemingly floating above the stone. This interplay of light and shadow may have been deliberate, designed to animate the carvings during ritual observances. The effect produces an almost cinematic experience for those present, as if the temple itself were communicating through visual phenomena, leaving an impression of deliberate sophistication. The arrangement of reliefs across ceilings and walls suggests careful planning, with carvings positioned to exploit light and sightlines within the temple. Repetition of certain motifs and alignment along structural axes indicate an understanding of geometry and symmetry beyond mere aesthetic choice. Some researchers posit that the placement might have corresponded with ceremonial pathways or specific times of day, creating visual effects that could reinforce spiritual experiences or even communicate knowledge encoded in symbolic or practical form. Microscopic examination of the stone surface reveals fine incisions and tool marks that suggest a sophisticated method of carving, possibly using abrasives or metal instruments unknown in most Ptolemaic sites. The precision with which the filaments and spirals were etched indicates careful planning and a level of skill that seems almost modern. Comparisons with reliefs from other temples of the period show that Dendera's artisans achieved a detail and consistency rarely seen elsewhere, hinting that the techniques employed may have been experimental or deliberately designed to enhance the interplay of light, shadow, and symbolic meaning throughout the temple's ritual spaces. In Egyptian cosmology, the interplay of light and sacred imagery symbolized divine presence, and the Dendera reliefs may have functioned as conduits for this energy. Fire, sunlight, and reflective surfaces all played essential roles in temple rituals, allowing the imagery to interact dynamically with its environment. Some researchers suggest that the filaments and arcs may have been symbolic representations of lightning, energy, or life force, connecting celestial phenomena with human understanding, blending observation, spirituality, and art into a single enigmatic expression. Careful analysis under changing sunlight reveals highlights and contrasts previously unnoticed, emphasizing forms that seem almost mechanical in nature. Angles and curves that appear flat at midday suddenly suggest depth and tension as the sun arcs across the sky. Photographic studies conducted in the late 20th century have captured these effects, showing filaments seeming to glow when struck by direct light, suggesting that the temple's architects may have been attuned to optical effects, producing visual phenomena that extend beyond simple artistic decoration. Studies of the relief's proportions and angles reveal an extraordinary attention to detail, suggesting that the artisans had a deep understanding of visual perception and geometry. Measurements of spirals and filaments show remarkable consistency, hinting at standardized methods of carving and planning. Comparisons to other Ptolemaic temples suggest that the Dendera reliefs are exceptional, not merely for their imagery, but for their integration with architectural features, implying a deliberate and highly organized artistic process that remains partially mysterious to this day. The carvings exude an aura of quiet authority, their shapes suggesting knowledge or intention beyond what conventional scholarship has yet grasped. Even with centuries of study, the reliefs continue to provoke questions about the intersection of art, technology, and ritual in ancient Egypt. They demonstrate a mastery of form, light, and symbolism that challenges modern assumptions about the capabilities and knowledge of Ptolemaic artisans, leaving observers to wonder whether aspects of the temple's design were meant to communicate ideas lost to history. Bathed in the quiet glow of centuries, the reliefs guard their secret, teasing those who seek understanding with a riddle that defies explanation. The Al-Naslaa split stone. A massive monolith stands in the Hale Plains, its split so precise that it seems both deliberate and impossible. For anyone approaching it, the stone immediately commands attention, not through size alone, but through the startlingly perfect line that divides it in two. Unlike fractures caused by natural forces, this separation exhibits a geometry that appears calculated, as if the hands that created it knew principles lost to time. Visitors describe a sense of unease, a quiet awe that grows as they circle the stone, trying to reconcile its raw heft with the flawless cleft running along its length. Stretching across the arid landscape, the stone commands attention, not for its enormity, but for the flawless line that bisects it. The surrounding desert offers no clues, no quarries or ancient tools that could explain its construction. Its remote location adds to the mystery, a place difficult to access, yet home to a megalith whose precision rivals that of the most celebrated ancient constructions. Travellers and locals alike are struck by the simplicity of the terrain juxtaposed against the sophistication implied in the split, leaving observers to wonder whether this anomaly was the result of human hands, natural forces, or some combination that remains unknown. The fissure runs with such startling straightness that it challenges conventional understanding of ancient construction or natural formation. Viewed from a distance, the stone seems almost too perfect, a monolith divided as though by some invisible saw. When approached closely, the split reveals edges smooth enough to suggest careful attention, yet rough enough to confirm the absence of modern intervention. Attempts to find tool marks or mechanical traces consistently yield nothing, leaving experts in awe of the apparent impossibility. Even in modern engineering terms, the precision displayed would be difficult to replicate without careful planning and advanced instruments. Measurements taken by geologists reveal surfaces so smooth and edges so uniform that natural erosion alone cannot account for them. Using laser scanning and precise surveying tools, teams have documented the near-perfect angles of the cleft, noting deviations of mere millimeters across a massive surface. Observations of mineral deposition along the fracture suggest it has been exposed for thousands of years, yet the edges remain astonishingly straight, defying expectations of weathering in such an exposed environment. The stone appears to resist time, its division preserved in a way that both fascinates and frustrates those seeking rational explanations. In comparison with other megalithic structures around the world, this division rivals the precision of stones shaped with advanced tools long before such technology existed. Sites such as Sacsayhuaman in Peru or Baalbek in Lebanon demonstrate remarkable skill, yet the Al-Naslaa stone presents a different kind of anomaly. The split itself is the central wonder, a feat of geometry and engineering without any accompanying architecture to justify its scale or effort. Scholars debate whether this was purely aesthetic, ritualistic, or functional, but the absence of supporting structures only deepens the sense of mystery. Attempts to explain the split through tectonic shifts or weathering consistently fall short, leaving the stone's origins mysterious. While fractures can naturally occur in rock formations due to stress and temperature changes, the crispness and uniformity of the Al-Naslaa split do not conform to known geological patterns. Unlike other rocks in the region that display irregular cracks and breaks, this stone maintains an almost laboratory-level alignment, challenging researchers to identify forces that could produce such perfect division without leaving evidence of human intervention. Some theorists propose that an unknown method, mechanical, ritualistic, or otherwise, might have enabled this level of precision, though evidence is scarce. Hypotheses range from the use of early levers and wedges to lost techniques involving vibration or heat, yet none have been substantiated. The lack of corroborating artifacts, such as tools or markings, leaves these suggestions speculative, though the very impossibility of the split invites imaginative inquiry. The stone becomes a canvas for the mind, allowing both scientists and enthusiasts to project theories about ancient ingenuity that remain tantalizingly out of reach. As sunlight shifts across the fissure, shadows highlight the perfection of the separation, creating an almost surreal sense of symmetry. Morning and evening light accentuate different aspects of the split, emphasizing depth, angle and straightness in ways that can make the stone appear suspended in midair. Photographers and surveyors alike note that even the play of shadow contributes to the illusion of human-like precision, raising questions about whether ancient observers intended such visual effects. The interaction between natural light and the stone's geometry adds another layer to the mystery, merging perception with the inexplicable accuracy of the split. Oral traditions in the region hint at unseen forces or guardians associated with the stone, suggesting the split has captured human imagination for centuries. Local stories speak of spirits that watched over the monolith, preventing its alteration and preserving its perfection. Travellers passing through the desert recount a palpable tension when approaching the rock, a sense that it is both protective and secretive. Though these legends offer no scientific explanation, they reveal the cultural weight the stone has carried, transforming it from a geological curiosity into a symbol of enduring mystery and human wonder. Even after extensive study by scientists, engineers and archaeologists, no explanation fully reconciles observation with theory, maintaining an air of enigma. Reports and surveys abound, but each leaves unanswered questions. How was the split achieved? Why here, and with what purpose? The stone resists categorization, existing as both natural and engineered, familiar and alien, a testament to forces or knowledge that seem just beyond the reach of modern understanding. In this tension, the Al-Naslaa split stone continues to challenge the assumptions of those who examine it. In its silent grandeur, the Al-Naslaa split stone confronts observers with questions about ancient ingenuity and the boundaries of what was possible. Each moment spent in its presence forces reflection on the skill, intent and perhaps knowledge required to create a split so precise. Whether a product of human hands, unseen natural forces, or something else entirely, it stands as a monument to the unresolved, a tangible enigma amid a landscape otherwise ordinary in appearance. Balanced precariously between human achievement and natural wonder, the Al-Naslaa split stone whispers a challenge that has defied explanation for millennia. The Pumapunku stone blocks. An intricate puzzle unfolds before anyone who studies the blocks, revealing alignments that seem almost deliberate beyond human skill. Each stone appears to have been positioned with precision, yet no record exists of the tools or techniques that could have achieved such exactness. Scholars and engineers alike have long marvelled at the angular grooves and interlocking joints, which seem far beyond the abilities attributed to the culture that inhabited the site. Even careful measurement only deepens the mystery, as the stones resist simple explanations for their origin. It is as if a hidden knowledge, now lost to time, guided their placement from start to finish. Questions arise immediately when attempting to account for the sheer scale and organisation of each component within the structure. Some blocks weigh more than 100 tons, and several display unusual L and T-shaped cuts that suggest the builders planned for multiple interlocking layers. Observers note that the positioning of these enormous stones forms a coherent grid, indicating careful geometric planning. Every corner and recess appears intentional, as though a blueprint guided their labour. The thought that such precision could be achieved without modern measurement tools strains credulity. Patterns emerge that hint at a deep understanding of angles, symmetry and interconnection, far ahead of what is expected for the era. Certain blocks fit together so seamlessly that even a razor-thin gap cannot be discerned between them. Channels and recesses are carved with uniformity that preserves function and structural integrity, suggesting advanced planning. Across the site, repeated motifs of precise joints and flat surfaces hint at a deliberate design strategy. Each stone not only contributes to structural stability, but also reinforces an aesthetic of engineered harmony that challenges conventional historical assumptions. Every attempt to reconcile measurements with known tools leaves gaps, as if the builders possessed knowledge now lost to history. The uniformity of cuts across massive stones of differing hardness, andesite and red sandstone, remains perplexing. Experimental reconstructions using chisels, hammers and levers demonstrate that even minor deviations in angle or alignment would prevent proper interlocking. Some engineers have speculated about advanced abrasive techniques or unknown machinery, yet no evidence of such methods exists. The difficulty of reproducing these cuts reinforces the impression that something extraordinary guided the construction process. The weight and size of the stones amplify the mystery, presenting logistical challenges that modern engineers find staggering. Transporting hundreds of ton blocks from quarries located miles away seems improbable with ropes, rollers, and manpower alone. The precise arrangement of differently shaped stones implies coordination, planning, and knowledge of leverage that transcends the presumed capabilities of the period. Observers are left to consider whether practical methods were lost over time, or if extraordinary, now-forgotten techniques were employed. Either possibility challenges accepted timelines of technological development in pre-Columbian South America. The way some stones interlock resists explanation, maintaining their position despite centuries of seismic activity and erosion. The joints are crafted so that blocks lock together like puzzle pieces, distributing weight in a manner that prevents collapse. Even small shifts in the base would have caused catastrophic structural failure, yet many blocks remain perfectly aligned. These features imply an understanding of forces and stress distribution that seems strikingly advanced. Structural engineers continue to study Pumapunku as a case of ancient ingenuity rivaling modern practices, yet questions linger about how such knowledge was acquired. Subtle features within the blocks suggest that the builders may have accounted for environmental forces, including seismic tremors and settling soil. Some stones show chamfered edges that allow weight to dissipate evenly across adjoining blocks, reducing the likelihood of fractures. Others have beveled surfaces that channel stress away from vulnerable points. This level of engineering sophistication implies deliberate planning and insight into material behavior, almost as if the builders anticipated the challenges of time itself. Such innovations reinforce the sense that Pumapunku was conceived with extraordinary foresight. Distinctive variations in material and form suggest intentional choices, though the reasoning behind them remains unclear. Certain stones were quarried from distant locations, while others appear local, indicating selection criteria beyond mere availability. Differences in cutting techniques hint at experimentation or adaptation to each material's properties. Some stones exhibit polishing not seen elsewhere, perhaps to reduce friction during assembly. These distinctions suggest that the builders combined function, durability, and possibly symbolic significance, leaving a multi-layered legacy that blends practicality and mystery. Debates over construction techniques continue, from practical theories of ramps and levers to speculative ideas invoking unknown methods. Scholars argue whether wooden sledges, lubrication, or inclined planes were used, but none fully account for the interlocking precision or sheer scale. Some experimental archaeologists have attempted reproductions, yet they invariably fail to match the accuracy of the originals. The persistence of these failures has fueled theories ranging from lost technological knowledge to enigmatic assistance, reinforcing the enigmatic aura that surrounds the site. Stories from local traditions speak of extraordinary skill and unseen forces, blending history with legend in ways that intrigue researchers. Oral histories describe giants or mysterious helpers shaping stone with ease. While these accounts cannot be verified, they complement the tangible evidence, adding depth to the cultural context of Pumapunku. The interplay between legend and reality frames the site not only as an architectural marvel but also as a symbol of human fascination with the unknown. Such narratives ensure that the mystery continues to capture imaginations as much as the physical evidence does. Experimental studies repeatedly demonstrate the difficulty of reproducing these blocks, underscoring the remarkable nature of the original assembly. Even with modern tools, engineers struggle to replicate the interlocking joints and complex geometries. Each failed attempt highlights the ingenuity of the original builders and the limits of our own understanding. The stones stand as a testament to skill, planning, and knowledge that have vanished from the historical record, leaving researchers to wonder at what might have been possible long ago. Observers are left with a profound sense of wonder, confronting the tension between what humans can achieve and what seems beyond possibility. Pumapunku challenges assumptions about technological development and architectural skill in pre-Columbian South America. Every stone, joint, and groove point toward deliberate intent, yet the method remains elusive. The site evokes not just awe, but a deep unease, reminding those who study it that human history may hold more secrets than textbooks reveal. Silent and immovable, the Pumapunku stone blocks endure as a riddle, whispering secrets of knowledge that the ages have all but erased. the star maps of Lascaux. Few artifacts from prehistory invite speculation like the walls of Lascaux, where painted figures might conceal knowledge of the stars themselves. Hidden deep within the cave, the vivid images of bulls, stags and horses capture attention not merely for their artistry, but for patterns that suggest a sophisticated awareness of the heavens. While traditional interpretations focus on hunting scenes or ritual symbolism, a closer examination raises the possibility that these Paleolithic artists embedded celestial information, tracking the movements of constellations and marking cycles invisible to the casual observer. The very placement of the figures seems deliberate, as if the cave itself were a canvas for early astronomical mapping. Among the depictions, bulls and stags recur with patterns that have drawn the attention of researchers seeking celestial correlations. Certain groupings of dots and lines positioned near the animals appear consistent across multiple chambers, leading some to suggest they represent clusters of stars. Scholars comparing the paintings to the night sky have noted striking resemblances to Taurus and the Pleiades, hinting that these prehistoric observers were attentive to celestial regularity. Even the relative size and orientation of the animals could reflect prominence or visibility of particular constellations during seasonal events, revealing a possible fusion of natural observation and symbolic representation. Meticulous study reveals alignments and groupings that hint at deliberate mapping, suggesting early humans tracked the heavens with intent. For instance, the Great Bull appears in proximity to dots arranged in a manner that could indicate the timing of solstices or equinoxes. Researchers have proposed that these alignments were used to mark important points in the year, essential for hunting, gathering, or ceremonial purposes. This interpretation implies a level of cognitive sophistication previously unattributed to people of the Upper Paleolithic, demonstrating not only artistic skill but also an understanding of celestial mechanics over time. Experts note that certain symbols appear in positions corresponding to solstices, lunar phases, or stellar positions, as though recording cycles over centuries. Tracing these markers across the cave walls, investigators have attempted to reconstruct an ancient calendar encoded in imagery. The alignment of dots with lunar crescents and repeated animal motifs suggests a systematic approach, where each symbol could represent a day, month, or celestial event. If correct, this would indicate that the creators of Lascaux possessed both meticulous observational methods and an abstract symbolic system sophisticated enough to document temporal changes without written language. The precision of each painted line and dot implies an understanding of proportion and orientation that extends beyond simple decoration. The depth of the pigments, the careful shading, and the subtle contours of the figures reveal deliberate choices that maximize visibility and coherence. Lines that might appear purely decorative could in fact serve as positional markers, connecting the imagery to specific celestial points. Such attention to scale and proportion suggests the artists were not merely recording what they saw in the forest, but also projecting their knowledge of the night sky onto the cave walls, creating a spatial map that functioned as both art and observation tool. Astronomers and archaeologists working together have proposed models that align the figures with known constellations, though debate persists. Some claim the correlation is compelling, pointing to recurring clusters of stars and repeated motifs across chambers that match visible patterns from 17,000 years ago. Others caution that coincidence and confirmation bias could exaggerate these links, reminding us that any interpretation must be weighed against the absence of textual evidence. Still, the precision and repetition found in multiple chambers, along with the complexity of overlapping motifs, make it difficult to dismiss the idea that the paintings encode more than simple storytelling. This potential celestial encoding reflects a cognitive sophistication in Paleolithic humans, revealing both observational skill and symbolic thinking. The ability to translate fleeting patterns in the night sky into permanent images on stone demonstrates abstract reasoning and memory. It also implies a cultural context in which such knowledge was valued and preserved. The repeated depiction of specific animals and their alignment with the dots may indicate that certain creatures held symbolic or calendrical importance, bridging the natural world with cosmic cycles in ways that speak to early human attempts to comprehend time and environment simultaneously. Critics caution that pattern seeking might overstate intent, arguing that natural artistic repetition could produce coincidental alignments. However, Careful measurement of the distances, angles, and relative positions of figures shows consistency that is statistically unlikely to be accidental. Where other Paleolithic art appears primarily decorative, Lascaux exhibits deliberate repetition and orientation that suggests a planned framework. Even skeptics acknowledge the extraordinary precision of the work, recognizing that the creators possessed a skill set that allowed them to manipulate perspective, proportion, and scale across irregular surfaces, a combination of talents rarely seen in prehistoric contexts. Yet the possibility of dual purpose, ritualistic meaning intertwined with practical astronomical observation, adds layers of intrigue to the imagery. The cave may have served as a sacred space where knowledge of the seasons and celestial events was transmitted through ceremonial practice. The paintings could function as teaching tools, illustrating the rhythms of the sky to a select audience, or as mnemonic devices, encoding information for those who understood the symbolic language. Such a dual function complicates interpretation, making it difficult to separate practical knowledge from spiritual or cultural significance, but it enriches the sense that Lascaux was a repository of multi-layered understanding. Modern analysis suggests that, even without written language, these early observers recorded temporal and spatial information in a way that resonates across millennia. Using digital imaging, 3D mapping, and astronomical simulation, contemporary researchers can trace the potential alignments and test hypotheses about the star map's accuracy. Each new technological insight reinforces the impression that these images are more than artistic expression. They may represent one of humanity's earliest attempts to codify and communicate complex astronomical phenomena. The juxtaposition of art, observation, and timekeeping within a single space challenges assumptions about the capabilities of early Homo sapiens and forces a re-evaluation of prehistoric intelligence. The enduring enigma of Lascaux lies not only in its artistry, but in the subtle indications that humanity once reached toward the stars with deliberate intelligence. Long after the caves were abandoned, the paintings persist as a silent testimony to early curiosity, observation, and abstraction. They invite modern viewers to ponder the minds behind the pigment, to imagine a night sky viewed tens of thousands of years ago, and to recognize that the impulse to chart the heavens is as ancient as it is universal. The walls remain a reminder that human engagement with the cosmos has deep roots, encoded in stone with precision and care that still astonishes. Encoded within the cave's shadowed walls, the Lascaux star maps challenge us to decipher a cosmic knowledge that predates history itself. The Shigir idol. The Shigir idol displays enigmatic symbols that continue to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike, a towering figure that challenges assumptions about the cognitive and artistic capacities of early humans. Crafted from larchwood, its surface is covered with geometric motifs, zigzags, and multiple faces that hint at meanings now entirely lost to time. Measuring over 5 meters when reconstructed, the idol was carved in segments that fit together with astonishing precision, indicating not only artistic skill but advanced planning and conceptualization. Its discovery raises questions about the cultural and symbolic life of the people who created it, far earlier than civilizations traditionally thought capable of such monumental works. Remarkably preserved over millennia, the Shigir idol's wooden form defies expectations for organic materials of its age. Buried in peat bogs in the Ural Mountains of Russia, the idol benefited from an anaerobic environment that prevented decay, allowing the larch to survive with much of its intricate detail intact. This rare preservation has provided researchers with a unique window into a world nearly 12,000 years removed, a world in which humans were creating objects of symbolic and possibly spiritual significance far earlier than previously imagined. The idol's endurance in such conditions continues to astonish experts, prompting reconsideration of the durability and craftsmanship of Paleolithic artifacts. Faces, lines, and abstract shapes carved into the Shigir idol seem to tell a story, though their meaning remains speculative. Some researchers propose that the figures represent ancestral spirits, deities, or mythological narratives, while others see cosmological references encoded in their patterns. A series of vertical lines, spirals, and notches suggests a form of proto-writing or symbolic record-keeping, though no definitive interpretation exists. The multiplicity of motifs, often overlapping and layered, hints at evolving significance over generations, as if the idol itself were a living document of cultural memory. Vertical segments of the Shigir idol align with precise craftsmanship, challenging even modern builders to replicate such joinery. Each piece was carefully shaped to fit with adjoining sections, creating a cohesive and towering structure that must have required considerable coordination and technical knowledge. The precision of the interlocking segments, combined with the sheer size of the monument, suggests that the creators possessed not only physical skill, but an understanding of structural stability and long-term preservation. The Shigir idol thus raises profound questions about the technical sophistication of humans during the late Mesolithic period. The construction of the Shigir idol required meticulous planning, revealing cognitive abilities often unrecognized in early hunter-gatherer societies. Organizing labor, transporting massive wooden segments, and executing detailed carvings would have demanded leadership, foresight, and collaborative effort. These capabilities indicate a level of social organization that contrasts sharply with conventional views of Paleolithic groups as small and nomadic. The idol stands as tangible evidence that humans were capable of monumental projects, symbolic thinking, and cultural continuity long before the emergence of urban centers or formalized civilizations. Each motif on the Shigir idol invites interpretation. Some see spiritual guardians, others astronomical charts, yet none are universally agreed upon. Scholars have suggested that the repetitive patterns encode calendrical information, a form of ritualistic symbolism or representations of mythic creatures. Anthropologists and archaeologists alike debate whether these carvings functioned as ceremonial markers or mnemonic devices for oral traditions. The multiplicity of potential meanings contributes to the idol's enduring mystery, leaving observers to wonder whether we will ever understand the full intentions of its ancient creators. Scientific testing of the Shigir idol confirms its astonishing age, placing it among the oldest monumental wooden artifacts ever discovered. Radiocarbon dating of its fragments indicates that it is nearly 11,500 years old, predating Stonehenge and many of the earliest known settlements. Dendrochronological analysis further corroborates these results, showing growth rings consistent with larch trees from that era. These findings force a reconsideration of the timeline of human symbolic expression, suggesting that complex artistic and cultural endeavours were underway far earlier than standard historical narratives allow. Compared to other Paleolithic artifacts, the Shigir idol's scale and symbolic complexity remain entirely unparalleled. While cave paintings and small figurines demonstrate early humans' capacity for representation, none approach the sheer verticality, layered carvings, or deliberate segmentation of the Shigir idol. Its monumental presence hints at a society capable of sustained cultural projects, with individuals dedicating significant time, effort, and knowledge to create a symbol that endured for generations. Such sophistication challenges assumptions about prehistoric art as purely functional or decorative, framing it instead as a deliberate act of long-term cultural expression. Researchers debate whether the Shigir idol served as a ritual object, a communication tool, or a symbolic record of events. Some propose it functioned as a totemic marker, bridging the human and spiritual worlds, while others see it as an early form of cultural documentation, encoding environmental, astronomical, or genealogical information. Every hypothesis encounters unanswered questions, particularly regarding the idol's original context and the societal framework that produced it. Despite centuries of investigation, the Shigir idol resists definitive explanation, maintaining its role as one of the most enigmatic artifacts of prehistory. When the Shigir idol was unearthed in a peat bog over a century ago, fragments suggested an even larger original structure. Excavation revealed multiple pieces, some of which were separated by soil layers, implying that the idol may have been erected in stages or periodically modified. The staggering height, combined with intricate carvings that extend along each segment, indicates a monument that could have been central to communal rituals or ceremonial spaces. Its fragmented discovery only amplifies the intrigue, hinting at what has been lost and what remains just beyond comprehension. The enduring presence of the Shigir idol challenges assumptions about early human creativity, social organization, and symbolic expression. Unlike transient cave art or small carvings, the idol represents a monumental effort, both physically and conceptually, requiring vision, skill, and cultural cohesion. It serves as a silent witness to a forgotten epoch, standing as evidence that our ancestors possessed both the imagination and technical capacity to leave enduring legacies. The Shigir idol prompts modern observers to reconsider the boundaries of prehistoric cognition and to marvel at the achievements of societies we have long underestimated. For over 12,000 years, the Shigir idol has silently defied understanding, guarding secrets no human hand has yet unraveled. The Nazca geoglyph engineering. Invisible from the Earth, the Nazca lines unfold their full scale only to those who ascend above, revealing patterns that baffle even seasoned researchers. The enormous figures, etched across the Peruvian desert, are immediately striking in their scope and precision, stretching for hundreds of meters with astonishing regularity. For centuries, their existence provoked curiosity and disbelief, prompting scholars to question how a civilization with no known aerial perspective could produce such enormous and coherent designs. From monkeys and spiders to geometric trapezoids, the lines seemed deliberate yet almost impossible, challenging assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient peoples. Even today, the line's sheer scale and meticulous layout remain a source of wonder and speculation. Measuring hundreds of meters, the animal figures and geometric shapes display a precision that hints at careful planning and exacting measurement. Surveying teams have attempted to replicate the lines using simple tools and rudimentary calculations, yet even modern experiments struggle to achieve the same clean angles and proportions. The straight lines maintain remarkable linearity over long distances, some extending for more than 20 kilometers without deviation. The geometric shapes, whether triangles, spirals, or trapezoids, are executed with exact symmetry that suggests a sophisticated understanding of measurement and proportion. This mathematical subtlety has led researchers to propose that the creators may have used ropes, stakes, and grids, but the exact methods remain speculative. Teams of ancient workers may have used simple tools yet astonishingly accurate surveying methods to translate miniature sketches into sprawling designs. Archaeologists examining small preparatory sketches found near Nazca proposed that artisans first outlined scaled-down models, then expanded them using proportional grids. Some lines converge at angles that require careful calculation, implying that the builders possessed knowledge of geometry beyond what is typically associated with their time. The effort would have required remarkable coordination among groups of labourers, each executing their portion of the design with precision over long stretches of desert, where even minor errors would have been glaringly visible from above. The methodology itself is a mystery, as no definitive records explain the construction process. The desert floor, stripped of its darker stones to expose lighter soil beneath, preserves the carvings with an endurance that has defied centuries. The natural mineral composition of the Nazca plains allowed the lighter subsurface to stand out against the darker surface, effectively creating a long-lasting contrast. Despite high winds and occasional rainfall, the figures have remained remarkably intact, a testament to both environmental conditions and the creator's knowledge of the terrain. In some areas, stones placed along the edges of lines may have reinforced boundaries, hinting at an advanced awareness of erosion and durability. The preservation is so effective that many figures remain sharply defined, offering modern researchers a glimpse of an ancient vision almost untouched by time. Alignments of certain lines point towards celestial phenomena, suggesting knowledge of solstices, planetary positions, or astronomical cycles. Some scholars note that long straight lines align with the rising or setting sun at solstices, while others point toward distant mountains or riverbeds, implying a combination of astronomical and geographical awareness. The possibility that the lines functioned as an observational tool for tracking celestial events has generated debate, as the figure's scale allows multiple alignments to coexist without obvious interference. Whether for ceremonial, calendrical, or symbolic purposes, these alignments reinforce the idea that the Nazca lines embody knowledge far beyond simple decoration. Subtle intersections and hidden angles emerge only when viewed from above, revealing layers of design that ground-level observers cannot detect. Some trapezoids and parallel lines intersect at precise intervals, forming networks of spatial relationships that suggest an overarching plan. These intricacies indicate that the creators were not merely decorating the landscape, but were embedding complex spatial logic into their work. Modern aerial photography and satellite imaging have uncovered connections between figures that are invisible from the desert floor, raising questions about whether the Nazca civilization had methods to conceptualize their work at a scale impossible to perceive without height. Coordinating efforts across vast distances implies a level of social organization capable of orchestrating large teams with precise timing and execution. Workers would have needed to communicate measurements, maintain alignment, and manage materials over wide stretches of the desert. The logistical challenge is compounded by the fact that many lines traverse uneven terrain, requiring careful adjustment to preserve straightness and symmetry. Archaeologists speculate that such coordination reflects a social hierarchy capable of planning and enforcing long-term projects, blending cultural, religious, and technical knowledge into a unified effort. Proportions and angles embedded within the designs indicate that the creators had an intuitive grasp of geometry long before formal measurement systems existed. Triangles, trapezoids, and spirals appear with consistent ratios, suggesting that the artisans understood concepts such as symmetry, parallelism, and proportional scaling. The precision achieved in translating miniature sketches into desert-spanning forms demonstrates not just practical skill but a conceptual understanding of spatial relationships. This intuitive geometry is a hallmark of the Nazca line's enduring mystery, as it predates known systems of formal mathematical documentation in the region. While other civilizations built upward, these engravings extend horizontally, embedding cultural symbolism directly into the land itself. The Nazca lines occupy a unique place in human history, where the landscape becomes both canvas and monument. Unlike pyramids or temples that dominate the vertical skyline, the lines stretch across the ground, requiring observers to adopt a perspective physically inaccessible at the time. This deliberate integration of culture into the earth itself transforms the desert into a living record, blending ritual, astronomical observation, and visual storytelling in ways that continue to confound researchers. Erosion and shifting sands have barely affected the clarity of the lines, suggesting that both environmental factors and careful placement contributed to their longevity. Stones removed to expose lighter soil, combined with the desert's dryness, created conditions that preserved the figures far beyond typical expectations. Even with occasional rainfall or wind, the line's straight edges and sharp angles remain surprisingly intact. The durability of these geoglyphs has prompted modern engineers to study their design for insights into natural preservation techniques, emphasizing the blend of environmental awareness and technical skill inherent in their creation. The combination of scale, precision, and apparent purpose ensures the Nazca lines remain an enigma that continues to challenge understanding. Every attempt to decode the figures raises new questions about the civilization that produced them, their motivations, and the knowledge they possessed. Cultural, astronomical, and technical interpretations all converge, yet none fully explains why such immense effort was devoted to designs visible mostly from above. The lines resist simple categorization, defying expectations about the capabilities of ancient societies and leaving a lingering sense of awe and mystery. Lines etched into the desert whisper of a civilization whose mastery of geometry, coordination, and vision remains astonishingly beyond our grasp. The Ubaid lizard figurines. They are small clay objects, easily overshadowed by temples and stone monuments, yet few artifacts disrupt the official understanding of early civilization as quietly as the Ubaid lizard figurines. Found at prehistoric settlements in southern Mesopotamia, these statues depict upright humanoid bodies paired with elongated reptilian heads, their facial features rendered with a precision that feels deliberate rather than symbolic. The discovery unsettles accepted timelines not because of technological sophistication, but because of the ideas these forms appear to carry. At a point when human representation was expected to be abstract and minimal, these figures introduce something far more specific. Archaeologists place the figurines within the Ubaid period, dated roughly between 6,500 and 3,800 BCE, a formative era marked by the spread of agriculture, irrigation systems, and permanent village life. Examples have been recovered from sites such as Tel al-Ubaid and Eridu, often embedded within undisturbed layers containing pottery, tools, and domestic refuse. Their stratigraphic positions confirm they belong firmly to this early phase of Mesopotamian history. This makes them some of the oldest known representational sculptures produced by settled human communities. What immediately distinguishes the figurines is how sharply they diverge from other artistic conventions of the same period. Human figures from Ubaid contexts are typically simplified, with rounded heads and minimal facial detail, emphasizing form over identity. Animals, when depicted, resemble species familiar to the environment and subsistence economy. The lizard figurines follow neither pattern. Their torsos conform to human proportions, complete with shoulders and folded arms, while their heads display elongated skulls and narrow eyes that evoke reptiles rather than stylized abstraction. The repetition of these traits across multiple examples suggests a shared visual language, rather than isolated experimentation. Some figurines are depicted holding smaller figures, interpreted as infants, whose heads mirror the same reptilian features as the adults. This detail introduces implications of lineage and continuity, concepts rarely expressed so explicitly in the material culture of this age. The figures do not appear transitional or symbolic, but complete in themselves. Whatever they represent, it is portrayed as stable and intentional. One detail often noted but rarely emphasized is the exaggerated cranial shape shared by many of the figurines. The heads are not simply animal-like, but elongated toward the back in a way that exceeds typical stylization seen in Ubaid art. In some examples, the eyes are set high and wide on the skull, while the mouth is reduced to a narrow slit, producing a face that feels intentionally unfamiliar rather than decorative. These proportions appear consistently across sites, suggesting the form was guided by a mental template rather than artistic whim. The result is an anatomy that does not resemble any known animal native to the region, complicating attempts to explain the figures as symbolic hybrids. Religious explanations are often proposed, yet they remain difficult to support. Later Mesopotamian belief systems are well documented through texts, reliefs, and temple architecture, none of which reference reptilian humanoid beings. Known deities are identified through attire, symbols, or associated animals rather than hybrid anatomy. The Ubaid figurines also predate the rise of monumental temples and organized priesthoods, complicating assumptions about structured worship. If these figures were sacred, they belonged to a belief system that left no surviving narrative framework. Another hypothesis suggests the figures depict humans wearing ritual masks, drawing on the symbolic role of animals in transformation rites. Reptiles are often associated with renewal due to their shedding of skin, a metaphor that may have resonated with early agricultural societies. However, the figurines show no visual indication of masks or concealment. The reptilian heads appear anatomically complete, with no suggestion of underlying human features. This consistency weakens interpretations that rely on symbolic disguise rather than identity. The locations in which the figurines were found further complicate interpretation. Many were recovered from domestic spaces rather than ceremonial centres, mixed with everyday debris from household life. This distribution implies that the figures were not restricted to rare ritual contexts, but held relevance within ordinary living environments. Such placement suggests they may have served roles related to identity, protection, or social memory rather than formal worship. Objects embedded in daily life often carry meanings that resist clear categorization. Comparisons with neighbouring regions provide little clarity. Contemporary cultures across the Near East produced figurines emphasizing fertility, motherhood, or animals, yet none display the same persistent fusion of human and reptilian form. Even within Mesopotamia itself, the imagery does not continue into later periods. As urban centres emerged and artistic traditions became more standardized, the lizard figures vanished entirely from the archaeological record. There are no transitional forms to explain their disappearance, only silence. The technical qualities of the figurines argue against dismissing them as crude or accidental. The clay was carefully shaped and fired using established methods, and proportions are maintained across multiple examples. This level of consistency suggests intentional production rather than casual modelling. The artisans who created them understood repetition and form, reinforcing the idea that these figures communicated something meaningful to those who made and kept them. Without texts or oral traditions to explain them, the figurines must be interpreted through material evidence alone. Archaeologists are left to analyse form, repetition, and context, tools that reveal structure but rarely intention. What emerges is the outline of a symbolic system that appears coherent yet isolated, disconnected from later Mesopotamian traditions. Its sudden appearance suggests it did not evolve gradually from earlier forms, while its disappearance implies it was either abandoned or deliberately forgotten. Within the boundaries of Orthodox archaeology, the Ubaid lizard figurines remain unresolved not because they violate chronology, but because they challenge assumptions about early symbolic thought. They suggest that complex and specific ideas about form and identity may have existed long before written history was capable of recording them. The official timeline can place them in time, but it cannot explain why they were imagined at all. That gap is where their unease persists. They remain fixed in fired clay, staring outward from a world that left no explanation behind, as though waiting for a question humanity has not yet learned how to ask. The Copper Scroll of Qumran. Most ancient writings survive as fragile echoes, their words fading as quickly as the materials meant to carry them across time. Papyrus cracks, parchment decays, and ink dissolves into dust, leaving historians to reconstruct meaning from fragments and shadows. Against this expectation stands one document that seems to resist the very idea of fragility. Among the discoveries associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls is a text that defies the normal logic of ancient writing by choosing endurance over readability, raising immediate questions about why it was created at all. Instead of ink pressed into parchment, this particular record was engraved into sheets of copper alloy, hammered thin and etched with painstaking care. Known as the Copper Scroll, it is the only Dead Sea Scroll not written on organic material, a choice that immediately separates it from every other text found in the Qumran caves. Copper was difficult to work with, expensive, and impractical for ordinary writing. Its use suggests the contents were not meant for daily reading but for survival across generations, as if the information itself was expected to outlast the people who recorded it. When the caves near Qumran began yielding their long hidden contents, expectations were shaped by texts meant to be studied, recited, or preserved as sacred tradition. The Copper Scroll did not fit this pattern even at the moment of discovery. Corroded and brittle, it could not be unrolled like other scrolls without crumbling, forcing conservators to cut it into strips to reveal the text. This physical resistance to being opened only reinforced the sense that it was never intended to function like a normal manuscript. Unlike any other scroll, the Copper Scroll is composed of multiple narrow sheets, riveted together to form a single continuous record, with each panel hammered flat and meticulously etched. The letters are deeply incised, not painted or inked, and arranged in lines that rarely break for aesthetics or spacing, creating a rigid, almost mechanical pattern. Scholars have noted the consistency of the engraving, suggesting not only careful planning but also tools capable of shaping copper with surprising precision for the period. Even the corrosion patterns hint that the sheets were buried or hidden deliberately, reinforcing the sense that the scroll was crafted with both endurance and concealment in mind. Once deciphered, the text revealed no prayers, no laws, and no narrative of faith, but a stark sequence of locations, measurements, and quantities. Line after line lists caches of gold and silver, buried vessels and hidden reserves, described with directional instructions and numerical precision. There is no explanation of why the treasure exists, who placed it there, or under what circumstances it should be recovered. The scroll reads less like a religious document, and more like an inventory, stripped of symbolism and emotion. Such precision introduces a quiet problem, because the world in which the scroll was produced was not known for large-scale bureaucratic record-keeping of this kind. The Dead Sea Scrolls are usually associated with sectarian religious communities, whose writings focus on law, prophecy, and communal identity. An administrative-style ledger detailing vast material wealth sits uncomfortably within that context. The tone is practical, almost indifferent, as though the compiler assumed the reader would already understand the purpose behind the list. As the listed amounts accumulate line after line, the scale of wealth implied by the document begins to strain historical assumptions. The quantities of precious metals described far exceed what is typically associated with small religious communities living on the margins of Judean society. Some scholars have linked the treasure to the Jerusalem temple, while others argue it reflects symbolic or exaggerated figures. Yet the specificity of the measurements resists easy dismissal, implying that the author expected the reader to take the numbers seriously. the scroll's directions are remarkably precise, naming valleys, cisterns, and natural landmarks that would have been familiar to its original audience but remain difficult to identify today. Distances are sometimes expressed in terms of stadia or other ancient units, which must be carefully converted to modern measurements to even attempt reconstruction. Certain locations hint at hidden storage sites in the hills or along dried riverbeds, as though the author intended to lead a reader through a landscape that has since been altered by centuries of erosion and settlement. This level of geographic specificity transforms the text from a mere list into a puzzle encoded in the very terrain of Judea. Linguistically, the scroll offers little comfort, employing phrasing and structure that set it apart even from other texts written in Hebrew. Its language is functional rather than theological, lacking the rhetorical flourishes common in religious manuscripts. The instructions are concise, sometimes cryptic, but consistently practical. This stylistic isolation reinforces the sense that the copper scroll belongs to a category of writing that no longer survives elsewhere, leaving it without clear parallels. Over time, scholars have attempted to anchor the document to familiar explanations, yet each proposal leaves critical elements unresolved. If the scroll records a real treasure, why was it never recovered by those who created it? If it is symbolic, why invest so much effort into engraving it onto metal? If it was meant as a record for insiders, why remove all contextual markers that would make it intelligible without prior knowledge? Each theory explains one aspect while leaving others untouched. Questions of purpose become unavoidable when a text is designed to endure yet does not explain its own existence. The copper scroll appears to anticipate discovery by an unknown reader, someone distant in time but capable of interpreting its instructions. At the same time, it withholds the very information that would make such an interpretation straightforward. This tension suggests intention rather than oversight, as though obscurity itself was part of the design. The absence of confirmation has not diminished the scroll's significance, but has instead transformed uncertainty into part of its evidentiary weight. No verified treasure matching its descriptions has ever been recovered, and no companion documents have surfaced to clarify its origins. Yet the scroll persists as a physical fact, an object that refuses to resolve itself into myth or history. Its survival without explanation challenges the assumption that ancient texts were always meant to be understood by posterity. Viewed as a whole, the copper scroll resembles less a religious manuscript and more a message sealed against a future its creators could not predict. It occupies an uneasy position within the official timeline not because it is impossible, but because it behaves unlike anything else from its era. In choosing permanence without clarity, it leaves behind a record of intent divorced from meaning, waiting for an audience that may never fully arrive. It remains unclear whether the scroll was meant to preserve forgotten knowledge, or to test whether anyone, centuries later, would still understand what it was trying to say. The Yonaguni Monument. The first glimpse of Yonaguni beneath the waves offers an illusion of order, terraces and ledges forming lines that seem impossibly deliberate. From above, the rock seems to slope naturally into the depths, yet closer observation reveals right angles, flat surfaces and linear edges that suggest more than a mere erosion. Divers descending into the water report a sense of dissonance, where natural topography and apparent design intersect. The formation raises immediate questions. Are these terraces the product of human hands, carved and engineered in an era long before coastal settlements were known, or the coincidental outcome of geological forces that mimic architecture with uncanny precision? Currents swirl around the submerged rock, carrying sediment that both reveals and obscures the sharpness of each edge, shaping the way divers perceive it. Water clarity varies with season and tide, sometimes allowing a clear view of the monument's stepped plains, other times turning the terraces into a blurred suggestion of order. Even small changes in light and angle transform the perception of walls and staircases, making features appear more geometric or more organic depending on the observer's perspective. The environment itself becomes a collaborator in the monument's mystery, hiding as much as it reveals. The site was first noticed in 1986 by recreational divers, who initially assumed the terraces were natural formations sculpted by erosion and time. As they descended, the scale became apparent. Some ledges measure tens of meters across and vertical faces rise several meters from the surrounding seafloor. These early explorers photographed and measured the formations with caution, unsure whether to classify them as geological curiosities or remnants of lost human engineering. Their reports quickly sparked debate, prompting scientific teams to return with more rigorous methods and a heightened awareness of the site's implications. Close inspection reveals geometric regularity, step-like platforms, angular walls, and straight edges that defy typical sandstone fracturing patterns. A series of terraces resemble stepped pyramids, with flat upper surfaces and nearly perpendicular edges. Lines extend across the formation with remarkable consistency, and certain angles approach right-angled precision. These features, repeated across multiple terraces and levels, suggest intentional shaping rather than the random breaks of natural erosion. The more diverse examine the formations, the more it becomes clear that what first appeared as a single structure may in fact be an interconnected series of terraces forming a coherent whole. Certain areas of the formation display what appear to be carved grooves and channels etched into the stone, some running parallel to the terraces and others connecting platforms in a manner that suggests functional or symbolic intent. These channels vary in width and depth, and in places they seem to have been deliberately smoothed, standing out against the rough sandstone around them. Observers have noted what could be door-like openings and polygonal depressions resembling rooms or enclosures, though no artifacts have been found to confirm human use. The careful alignment of these features across multiple terraces adds another layer of complexity, reinforcing the sense that the monument was not left to the whims of nature alone. Geologists point to tectonic activity and sedimentation along the Ryukyu Trench, demonstrating that natural forces can produce surprising patterns, though not all align with what is observed here. The region is prone to earthquakes and uplift, which fracture rock into large blocks and slabs. Water erosion can round edges or create step-like depressions, occasionally producing features reminiscent of human design. Yet the regularity and scale of certain flat surfaces combined with aligned terraces challenge conventional explanations. Some blocks appear too smooth and linear to be solely the result of natural fracture planes, leaving room for ongoing debate. Supporters of human involvement highlight smooth surfaces and linear arrangements that suggest deliberate shaping, including possible carved channels and staircases. Photographs and measurements show what may be broad, stair-like inclines, leading from one terrace to another, while certain walls display edges that appear straight over lengths of tens of meters. Advocates argue that the formation's scale and repeated geometric forms exceed the likelihood of natural coincidence, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of stone shaping and urban planning by a civilization whose presence remains undocumented. The idea of a submerged city or ceremonial complex emerges, but evidence is partial and open to interpretation. Yet ambiguity persists in areas where natural erosion and intentional shaping appear to overlap, leaving terraces that are both weathered and improbably angular. Some planes are jagged or irregular, matching known patterns of sandstone fracturing, while others are remarkably flat and symmetrical. These inconsistencies make definitive classification difficult, feeding ongoing tension between the natural and artificial hypotheses. The eye can trace paths and alignments that feel purposeful, only to encounter abrupt irregularities that remind researchers of the relentless influence of geology. Underwater surveys using sonar, photography, and 3D mapping have captured the monument's scale, but the challenges of diving at depth make definitive analysis difficult. Currents and limited dive times restrict detailed exploration, while sediment settling over centuries obscures certain features. Sonar mapping and photogrammetry provide broader views, allowing researchers to measure terraces, ledges, and potential walls. Yet the absence of cultural artifacts or tools leaves the question of human involvement unresolved. Each expedition uncovers more data, yet none can conclusively assign purpose or origin. Comparisons to global megaliths, from Stonehenge to Inca terraces, highlight the precision of Yonaguni's lines, while underscoring the complication of a site submerged beneath rising seas. The monument's sharp angles and broad platforms evoke the work of early engineers elsewhere, yet unlike those sites, Yonaguni lies hidden beneath nearly 20 meters of water. Sea levels were lower in the last ice age, potentially exposing parts of the formation to human access thousands of years ago, but no definitive archaeological evidence has emerged to connect it to known civilizations. This temporal ambiguity compounds the mystery, leaving the terraces suspended between possibility and improbability. Speculation about its purpose ranges from ceremonial and ritualistic to residential, yet the absence of associated artifacts leaves these ideas tantalizingly unconfirmed. No pottery, tools, or carvings have been conclusively linked to the terraces, and nothing confirms habitation. Some theorists suggest the site could have been a religious or administrative complex. Others propose a monumental display of human engineering intended to impress or instruct. The lack of corroborating evidence reinforces uncertainty, forcing researchers to rely on observation, measurement, and inference alone. The unanswered question of whether the structure is natural or constructed has persisted for decades, sustaining fascination while denying certainty. Each expedition and study generates more data but also more questions. Experts continue to debate whether the terraces were shaped by tectonics or by human hands, whether erosion has disguised original intentions, and whether lost civilizations may have existed along ancient coastlines that have since disappeared. The monument remains an enigma, its terraces a puzzle both enduring and elusive. Beneath shifting currents and centuries of sediment, the terraces remain silent and unyielding, as if daring anyone to prove whether they were shaped by human hands or by the patient forces of the earth itself. The Predynastic Egyptian drilling. The granite itself seems unyielding, yet within its surface lie perfectly cylindrical holes whose precision immediately raises questions about the tools and hands that could have created them. These openings, found in predynastic sites across Upper and Lower Egypt, range from shallow perforations to deep boreholes, each demonstrating a level of symmetry that challenges conventional understanding of Stone Age capabilities. Observers often describe a sense of disbelief upon first seeing them, noting that such accuracy in hard stone would require not only skill, but technology previously thought absent in that era. The holes appear as if the granite itself was unwilling to yield, yet somehow it did, leaving behind evidence of human ingenuity beyond expectation. Each hole measures nearly identical in diameter and depth, its walls smooth and unbroken, suggesting not chance but careful planning and repetition across multiple sites. Distances between holes are often uniform, and the patterns occasionally align in straight lines or geometric arrangements, hinting at intentional design. The interiors are polished to a degree that is difficult to achieve with simple abrasives, and microscopic inspection reveals faint spiral striations that indicate the rotational motion of whatever implement was used. These characteristics suggest that whoever created the holes possessed both a conceptual understanding of form and practical knowledge of how to manipulate an exceptionally resistant material. Found in quarries and construction areas across pre-dynastic Egypt, the granite's hardness defies ordinary manual techniques, forcing observers to reconsider what early artisans were capable of. Granite, with a Mohs hardness of 6 to 7, resists scratches from most copper tools, and carving it without advanced methods would require immense time and effort. The locations of these holes suggest that they were not isolated experiments, but part of a larger pattern of work integrated into the extraction of building material or the creation of ceremonial objects. Yet the absence of any surviving tools capable of achieving this precision leaves the methods used tantalizingly out of reach. Close examination reveals spiral striations etched into the interiors of the holes, subtle grooves that indicate rotational drilling rather than simple abrasion with stone or copper implements. These striations suggest a consistent circular motion applied under pressure, creating a uniform cylinder rather than a rough, uneven cavity. In some cases, the grooves curve slightly along the vertical axis, implying control over both speed and angle, which would have been difficult without a mechanism to maintain rotation. The pattern of wear differs from what is observed in holes produced by natural fracture or modern stone chiseling, reinforcing the theory that these were intentionally crafted with knowledge of rotational mechanics. Remarkably, some of the drill holes display a depth-to-diameter ratio that would challenge even modern handheld tools, reaching depths that suggest sustained, controlled rotation over long periods. Similar drilling marks have been observed in a few later sites across the ancient world, yet none match the combination of smoothness, straightness, and scale seen in pre-dynastic Egypt. The precision of these cavities indicates not only a mastery of rotational motion, but also an understanding of material resistance, torque, and perhaps cooling techniques to prevent cracking. This combination of factors underscores a level of technical sophistication that seems far ahead of its recorded era, hinting at knowledge that may have been lost to history. Experimental archaeologists attempting to recreate the holes using known predynastic tools report hours of effort yielding results far less precise, highlighting a gap between observed and achievable outcomes. Copper drills, stone points, and sand abrasives can erode granite, but reproducing the smooth cylindrical form and the depth observed in these sites has proven nearly impossible without modern equipment. In some experiments, days of continuous work produced only shallow, irregular indentations, leaving researchers to speculate that a lost technique, tool, or material may have been employed. These failures underscore the enigmatic nature of the evidence, suggesting that our understanding of early technology is incomplete. The uniformity of the drill holes implies a sophisticated understanding of geometry and rotational mechanics, hinting at techniques that remain undocumented in historical records. The repetition across multiple holes and sites suggests planning, measurement, and execution according to a predetermined standard. The level of consistency is striking, considering the lack of surviving mechanical devices or documentation from pre-dynastic Egypt. Such precision points to a culture capable of combining observation, experimentation, and technique in ways that challenge the accepted narrative of technological development in the region. Later Egyptian periods, while showing advances in stoneworking, do not fully account for the precision and scale observed in these earlier holes, leaving a technological mystery unresolved. While the Old Kingdom produced monumental pyramids and temples, and tools became increasingly sophisticated, the predynastic drill holes seem to anticipate abilities attributed to a later era. This temporal gap raises questions about the continuity of knowledge and whether techniques were lost, refined, or rediscovered over a millennia. The holes, in this sense, act as silent witnesses to skills that history has yet to fully recognize. Scholars remain divided. Some attribute the marks to later interventions or erosion, while others insist the evidence points to deliberate human craftsmanship from the pre-dynastic era itself. Microscopic analysis of the grooves, tapering, and consistent diameters supports the notion of intentional drilling, yet the absence of contemporary records leaves room for alternative interpretations. Even proponents of naturalistic explanations concede that certain features defy simple erosion or fracture logic, suggesting that the truth may lie somewhere between human intervention and geological happenstance. This ongoing debate adds layers of intrigue to the mystery. If the holes were indeed created with lost techniques, they suggest that early Egyptians possessed knowledge of tool design and mechanical principles far ahead of what is currently accepted. The implications extend beyond the drill holes themselves, hinting at a civilization capable of engineering solutions, precise measurements, and perhaps even conceptual innovations that have since vanished from the historical record. These traces of expertise, etched into the hardest stone available to them, demand reconsideration of what predynastic society might have achieved in both practical and symbolic contexts. Speculation about their purpose ranges from ritual and ceremonial use to structural or functional applications, yet the absence of associated artifacts ensures these remain unconfirmed theories. Some theorists propose that the holes were used to mount poles or support constructions, while others suggest symbolic significance or connection to water management. Whatever their function, the holes demonstrate a level of intentionality and sophistication that far exceeds what might be expected from the historical timeline of early Egypt. Each new investigation uncovers subtle clues, but the true purpose remains just beyond reach. Despite centuries of study, the drilled granite endures as a silent challenge, an unyielding record of skill and precision whose origin continues to defy explanation. Even with modern technology and extensive archaeological analysis, no consensus has been reached regarding how these holes were made, by whom, or for what exact purpose. They remain as evidence that the predynastic world may have possessed technical abilities that modern scholarship has yet to fully comprehend. Even millennia later, the smooth spiraled holes in the granite remain, whispering of hands and knowledge that history has yet to acknowledge. The Quipu's hidden mathematics. Across the Andes, thin cords of varying colours and lengths dangle in patterns that hint at a system far more intricate than simple tallying, their knots encoding knowledge that has defied modern comprehension. The Kipu, used extensively by the Inca civilization, consists of primary chords from which secondary and tertiary chords hang, each meticulously knotted in sequences that suggest numerical, administrative, or possibly narrative functions. Observers often find themselves drawn to the visual complexity, but as one studies the chords, it becomes evident that their purpose extends far beyond decoration. Each knot, twist, and colour may represent layers of information that the human eye can perceive but not immediately decode. Each chord bears a careful arrangement of knots, single, long, or figure eight, that seems to correspond not merely to numbers, but to a broader logic linking quantity, position, and colour into a coherent three-dimensional matrix. The knots are evenly spaced in many cases, while some chords branch unexpectedly, creating hierarchies that hint at sophisticated record-keeping. In certain examples, colours shift subtly along a chord, or the direction of the twist changes mid-sequence, suggesting conventions that were consistently applied. These nuances indicate a systematized intelligence behind the construction, yet one that resists straightforward interpretation even today. Created by the Inca over centuries, these chorded records functioned in a civilization largely without written language, serving as tools for census-taking, taxation, and perhaps even ritualized memory, yet surviving examples leave more questions than answers. Many quipus were stored in government centers, where administrators could quickly reference them to track population counts, agricultural yields, or resource distribution. Others appear to have been carried along trade routes, possibly serving as portable ledgers for regional authorities. Despite these practical applications, there is no accompanying text to explain the patterns, leaving modern researchers to infer their meaning from structure alone. In many quipus, the position of a knot along a chord indicates place value, suggesting the use of a base 10 mathematical system that rivals early written numerals in both sophistication and abstraction. A single knot near the end of a chord might signify 1, while a cluster higher up could represent hundreds or thousands, depending on its relative location. This spatial notation allows large numbers to be represented compactly, and the repeated patterns across multiple chords demonstrate consistency that would have required both cognitive foresight and shared cultural conventions. The numerical logic is evident, yet it does not fully explain all variations observed in the extant examples. Beyond numbers, some researchers propose that the chords may carry narrative content, encoding genealogies, laws, or historical events in ways that remain partially undeciphered and frustratingly enigmatic. Certain colour sequences and chord groupings recur in context that suggest symbolic meaning rather than purely arithmetic function. Others note that the complexity increases in ceremonial or high-status quipus, where additional branches, alternating twist directions, and subtle differences in knot height could encode layers of abstract or narrative information. The tantalizing possibility emerges that the quipu is both a counting device and a proto-writing system. Modern experiments with replica quipus reveal that subtle variations in knot size, spacing, and chord thickness can encode multiple layers of information simultaneously, demonstrating the complexity that the original makers achieved without written symbols. Researchers have constructed systems in which a single chord can track agricultural output, while a secondary chord communicates labour distribution or calendrical data. Even with modern insight, fully reconstructing the complete logic of an original quipu is nearly impossible, underscoring the remarkable skill and knowledge of its creators. The evidence shows a sophisticated use of abstraction, one that challenges assumptions about information processing in a non-literate society. The branching of chords, combined with alternating colours and knot types, creates hierarchies of data that imply intentional organisation, a structure that could convey both quantitative and qualitative information across a single system. For example, a primary chord may indicate a regional category, while secondary branches denote subregions, and tertiary chords represent households or individuals. Colours may signify resource types or ceremonial significance, and the specific knot pattern may indicate units of measurement or familial lineage. The quipu's three-dimensional encoding transforms a simple chord into a multi-layered record, combining spatial, numerical, and symbolic dimensions in a way that written systems rarely achieve. When compared to tally sticks, cuneiform tablets, or Egyptian counting boards, the quipu's three-dimensional non-written encoding stands apart, revealing a level of abstraction and spatial intelligence unique in the ancient world. Whereas other civilizations relied primarily on visual symbols on flat surfaces, the Kipu leverages both the human capacity to perceive spatial relationships and the tactile intelligence of those who used it. Its design suggests an understanding of both mathematical principles and cultural encoding, challenging the notion that literacy is the only path to complex record-keeping. Experts remain divided. While some suggest that the Quipu's knots convey little beyond numerical accounting, others interpret recurring patterns, colour sequences, and branching chords as evidence of a deeper, possibly narrative system that continues to elude full comprehension. Analytical studies using modern imaging and pattern recognition software have revealed statistical regularities inconsistent with random arrangement, yet no consensus exists on how to translate these into coherent content. Each new study raises additional questions, revealing the extent to which the Quipu represents both knowledge and secrecy, practical administration, and possible cultural storytelling. The chords remain unbroken, their knots a silent puzzle whose logic and purpose continue to challenge even the most meticulous examination, hinting at a depth of understanding that has largely vanished from human memory. Some surviving examples are hundreds of years old, and yet they preserve enough structural detail to suggest that the system was both robust and adaptable. Attempts to reconstruct their exact use highlight not only the sophistication of Inca abstraction, but also the profound cultural context embedded in these seemingly simple strings. The Kipu is a record of thought, memory, and social organization that eludes conventional interpretation. If the Kipu does encode stories, genealogies, or complex administrative data, it forces a re-evaluation of pre-Columbian knowledge systems, demonstrating an intellectual sophistication that parallels, yet differs from, literate civilizations elsewhere. It suggests that information can be structured and transmitted in forms beyond written words, relying on tactile perception, memory, and shared cultural conventions. The very act of creating and interpreting these chords required a level of abstract reasoning and collective understanding that continues to astonish modern researchers, hinting at cognitive achievements lost to time. Even today, the tangled chords and knots of the Kipu whisper secrets of a civilization's knowledge that we have yet to fully grasp. The Mohenjo-daro Precision City. From above, the remnants of Mohenjo-daro reveal a city laid out with astonishing regularity, its grid of streets and blocks defying expectations for a Bronze Age settlement. Excavations have shown that the city spanned roughly 300 hectares, with streets running north to south and east to west, intersecting at almost perfect right angles. Archaeologists have marvelled at this precision, noting that such urban regularity would require careful planning and coordination on a scale rarely documented in contemporary civilizations. Despite its age of over 4,000 years, the evidence points to a level of organization and foresight that modern urban planners can still appreciate. Straight avenues intersect at precise right angles, guiding both movement and water, while narrower lanes weave between residential clusters in ways that suggest intentional zoning and thoughtful urban design. The main streets are broad enough to accommodate carts and pedestrian traffic, while side streets allow for private access to homes and workshops. This careful differentiation indicates not just technical knowledge, but an awareness of social structure and daily life, revealing a city whose planners anticipated both efficiency and privacy. The layout also reflects an understanding of drainage and air circulation, a subtle form of engineering built into the very design of the city. Each brick, fired to a uniform size and shape, bears the mark of careful standardization, a consistency that hints at mass production and quality control rarely seen in contemporary civilizations. Measurements of thousands of bricks reveal astonishing uniformity, often within a few millimeters, suggesting that molds or standardized kilns were employed to maintain consistency. This level of precision implies not only a sophisticated understanding of materials, but also an administrative system capable of enforcing production standards across a large labor force. The sheer scale and consistency of these bricks continue to challenge assumptions about Bronze Age manufacturing capabilities. Beneath the streets, covered drains channel wastewater away from homes, public baths, and marketplaces, demonstrating a mastery of sanitation and a foresight that modern engineers would recognize. The drainage system, consisting of brick-lined channels and regularly spaced access points, shows that city planners anticipated both hygiene and maintenance needs. Many homes had private drains that connected seamlessly to the main sewers, indicating an advanced understanding of urban sanitation. Archaeologists have noted that such a system would have reduced disease and improved living conditions, an achievement unmatched in most other contemporary cities. Homes are organised around central courtyards, with multi-room layouts that provide both privacy and ventilation, suggesting that comfort and hygiene were integral to city planning. Kitchens, bathing areas and storage rooms were strategically placed to optimise light, airflow and access to water. The courtyard-centred design also allowed families to maintain private outdoor spaces while remaining integrated into the broader urban framework. Such thoughtful residential design reflects a society concerned with both communal and individual well-being, revealing a city that was as much about human experience as it was about structural efficiency. Public structures, including granaries and communal baths, rise from the urban fabric as evidence of civic foresight, reflecting a society capable of centralised organisation and resource management. Granaries were elevated to prevent moisture damage and pests, while large baths suggest ritual or communal practices that required careful water management. These facilities distributed throughout the city indicate that the urban planners considered not just the needs of individual households, but the requirements of the community as a whole. The presence of such infrastructure points to administrative oversight, although the details of governance remain mysterious. The uniform mortar, fired bricks and careful alignment of walls indicate construction techniques of surprising sophistication, revealing knowledge of materials and engineering principles that seem ahead of their time. Archaeologists have noted that walls were built with careful attention to load distribution, preventing structural collapse even in large multi-room buildings. The use of baked bricks, as opposed to sun-dried mud, ensured durability, while precise layering reduced gaps and instability. These techniques suggest that builders possessed not only practical skill but also an intuitive grasp of engineering principles, long before such knowledge was formalized elsewhere. Strategically placed wells and reservoirs supply water efficiently across neighborhoods, hinting at an understanding of aquifers and hydrology that ensured the city could sustain its population. The distribution of wells indicates careful planning to provide equitable access, while some reservoirs appear to have been designed for both drinking water and irrigation. Archaeologists have suggested that this attention to resource management may have supported a dense population without the kinds of public health crises common in other ancient cities. The integration of water systems with street layouts and residential planning reflects a level of civic foresight that remains extraordinary. Repeated measurements, zoning patterns, and consistent building dimensions suggest a governing authority capable of enforcing standards, yet little is known about how such administrative control was achieved. No written records survive that explain the hierarchy or decision-making processes of Mohenjo-daro, yet the city's uniformity implies central oversight. Some scholars theorize that local councils or skilled overseers enforced compliance, while others suggest that social norms alone maintained consistency. Regardless of the mechanism, the evidence demonstrates that coordination on a citywide scale was possible, and that the builders possessed both organizational skill and technical knowledge. Compared to contemporary centers in Mesopotamia and Egypt, Mohenjo-daro exhibits a level of urban planning and civil engineering that challenges conventional timelines of technological development. While other Bronze Age cities relied on organic growth and adaptive structures, Mohenjo-daro was planned from the ground up, reflecting a deliberate coordinated approach. The precision of its streets, the consistency of its bricks, and the efficiency of its sanitation systems all point to a civilization capable of applying advanced knowledge in a practical, large-scale context. This sophistication raises enduring questions about how such intelligence developed and why it seems to disappear in subsequent eras. Though partially buried and eroded over millennia, the city's precise layout and advanced infrastructure continue to puzzle archaeologists, leaving questions about the people who built it and the knowledge they possessed. Excavations reveal no clear predecessor with comparable urban sophistication, suggesting that Mohenjo-daro represents a remarkable leap in planning and engineering. The sudden emergence of such a city, followed by its mysterious decline, adds an aura of enigma, a civilization capable of constructing one of the most advanced cities of the ancient world, only to vanish without leaving a clear record of its methods or governance. To this day, the streets and drains of Mohenjo-daro stand as silent evidence of an urban intelligence that vanished long before history could record it. The Nebra sky disk. Buried for millennia beneath the fields of Saxony-Anhalt, a bronze disk emerges, its gold inlays depicting celestial bodies with precision that astounds archaeologists and historians alike. Discovered in 1999 by treasure hunters and later verified by scientific teams, the Nebra sky disk dates to around 1600 BCE, placing it firmly in the European Bronze Age. Its remarkably preserved surface reveals an extraordinary level of astronomical understanding, a sophistication previously thought impossible for a society that left no written records of its observations. From the very first glimpse, the disk challenges assumptions about what early Europeans could comprehend and encode in symbolic form. The metal itself, carefully smelted and hammered, bears evidence of advanced metallurgical techniques, revealing skills that would have required both knowledge and meticulous patience. Analysis shows that the bronze was alloyed with precise ratios of copper and tin, while the gold inlays were hammered to fit exact positions on the disk's surface. The crafting methods indicate not only technical skill, but also a deliberate aesthetic vision, suggesting the makers intended the disk to communicate both functional and symbolic meaning. This combination of science and artistry sets the artifact apart from ordinary tools or ornaments of its era. Etched onto its surface, a golden sun, crescent moon, and a cluster of stars form a composition that aligns with real astronomical patterns visible in the Bronze Age sky. The cluster is believed to represent the Pleiades, a group of stars consistently associated with seasonal markers across multiple ancient cultures. Scholars have noted that the arrangement corresponds accurately to positions of celestial bodies as they would have appeared more than 3 millennia ago, implying careful observation over long periods. The disk is thus not only symbolic but also remarkably precise, a prehistoric map of the heavens. 2 enigmatic arcs curve along the disk's edge, likely corresponding to the horizon positions of solstices, hinting that the craters tracked both solar and lunar cycles with remarkable accuracy. These arcs, forming angles nearly identical to the solar extremes, may have allowed the makers to predict seasonal changes critical for agriculture, ritual, or navigation. The sophistication of these measurements suggests a structured method of observation, likely involving repeated skywatching over years. Such precision implies a cultural emphasis on tracking time and celestial cycles, far beyond what the broader European Bronze Age is thought to have achieved. Compared to other contemporary European artifacts, the Nebra sky disk stands out for its sophistication, suggesting that knowledge of celestial phenomena was far more advanced than previously believed. While Bronze Age Europe is often considered technologically rudimentary, this artifact reveals an intellectual culture capable of abstract reasoning and scientific observation. It also challenges the assumption that early Europeans relied solely on oral traditions or rudimentary calendars, implying that they may have possessed a practical, evidence-based understanding of astronomical events. Some scholars propose that the disk functioned in ceremonial observances, while others suggest a practical role in timekeeping or navigation, yet no definitive explanation survives. Its careful deposition in a hoard, along with axes and bracelets, hints at ritual significance, perhaps marking a sacred site or a period of seasonal rites. The possibility that it served multiple purposes, both spiritual and utilitarian, adds to its enigmatic allure. The artifact's duality of function, practical and symbolic, mirrors the duality of knowledge itself, understood but simultaneously hidden. Subtle measurements, including the roughly 32-degree separation between the arcs, reveal a nuanced understanding of lunar motion that implies careful observation over many years. Such accuracy could have allowed early astronomers to predict eclipses or to track the lunar calendar in relation to the solar year. This implies not only sophisticated measurement techniques, but also a cultural framework that valued precise knowledge of celestial phenomena. For a civilization without written astronomy, the level of abstraction encoded in the disk is extraordinary. The delicate attachment of gold symbols to the bronze surface required precision tools and techniques, indicating a mastery of materials that elevates the disk beyond simple artistry. Each inlay is placed with exacting care, suggesting an understanding of both material properties and symbolic placement. This technical mastery implies that the makers were not only observers of the sky, but also skilled artisans capable of translating abstract concepts into physical form. The convergence of metalworking and astronomy demonstrates an integration of science, craft, and culture rarely seen in prehistoric Europe. Discovered alongside axes, bracelets, and other hoarded items, the Nebra sky disk offers glimpses into a network of Bronze Age societies exchanging knowledge, ritual objects, and perhaps even astronomical insight. The associated artifacts suggest trade or cultural interaction over considerable distances, hinting that this knowledge was not isolated but part of a wider intellectual landscape. This raises questions about the diffusion of astronomical knowledge. Were similar disks or observational practices used elsewhere, now lost to time, or was this a singular phenomenon in Central Europe? Its existence challenges assumptions about European prehistory, revealing a level of abstract thinking and scientific observation previously thought impossible for the period. The disk's combination of artistry, precision, and encoded knowledge demonstrates that Bronze Age societies may have been far more intellectually sophisticated than the surviving record suggests. Each element of the disk, from the placement of stars to the curvature of the arcs, indicates deliberate planning and observation, a silent testimony to human curiosity and ingenuity that has survived for over 3 millennia. Despite its clarity and precision, the disk leaves unanswered questions: who made it, why it was buried, and how such knowledge could arise and then vanish without a trace. The artifact's sudden appearance and equally mysterious disappearance challenge scholars to reconsider the trajectory of prehistoric science. Its preservation in a hoard hints at ritual safeguarding, yet the knowledge it embodies seems to have been lost within a few generations. The Nebra sky disk remains a puzzle, a fragment of human understanding that both illuminates and conceals the sophistication of those who created it. The golden symbols cast their silent patterns across time, hinting at a sky once understood but now lost to history.